This podcast contains adult language and stories of true crime. If you don't like laughing, crying, or being horrified at the actions of other humans, this podcast is not for you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Resolved Mysteries Podcast.
Hi.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello. This is episode 22 of season 1. So if you are watching along with us on Amazon Prime, YouTube, Tubi TV, or Pluto, this is a podcast where we research cases from the original Unsolved Mysteries and provide you with the latest updates. To see photos that we reference in the episode, follow us on Instagram at re_solved mysteries, on Facebook and Twitter at Resolve the Pod, and you can contact us at resolvedmysteriespodcast.com or at our P.O. Box 14005, Portland, Oregon 97293. We also have a merch store at resolvedmysteriespod.threadless.com. Get yourself some cute things over there. As you guys know by now, each month one of our patrons chooses a nonprofit and we donate $1 for every review that we receive. This month's organization is the Global Autism Project, and this was suggested by our awesome patron, Nicole A.
Yeah, girl.
The Global Autism Project is a global movement of passionate, dedicated individuals coming together to provide lasting, meaningful change for communities around the world. It's an international network of people who not only care for, but are equipped to teach people with autism. There are 70 million people in the world with autism. 85% of them live in developing countries, and the Global Autism Project is empowering a generation to understand and accept autism. You can find them at www.globalautismproject.org. So leave us a review anytime in July, and you'll be supporting a great cause.
That's so cool.
Yeah, love it.
So we have a couple patrons to shout out. Nathan G, Chelsea S, Nicole S, Nicole A, Rory H, Peta B, Sess, Kimberly C, Lindsay K, and Kate P, Aaron B, Pam R, and Amy K. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
We really appreciate your patronage, and we couldn't do this without you guys and the rest of our lovely patrons that help us out every month.
Yep.
Yes, thank
we
you
text
so
each
much.
other every time we get a new one.
We get so excited. We have a spreadsheet about it.
We do.
We do.
We got a lot of spreadsheets.
Yep. If you want to check us out on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/resolvedmysteries. And then we also have a book club that we're so excited about. We finished our first book, Into the Water by Paula Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
And then our July book that we're reading is After the Eclipse by Sarah Perry. So feel free to read along with us. That's our nonfiction pick for the summer, a memoir about a mother's death. And then if you want to send us your thoughts about that book, we can include some of them in a mini episode about it. Send those to us by July 31st.
Yeah, and you
then-
guys can send us like any little tidbits, even if you just have a paragraph or something.
Yeah.
Even a sentence.
I feel like it seems intimidating, but literally just any thought you have.
Yeah, it's not a book report.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very relaxed.
Yes. Just any comment, anything you liked, anything you didn't
Yeah,
like.
or even like ask us a question. What did you guys think about this part or whatever?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great to
Yeah.
help the conversation flow.
Absolutely.
And then our August book is Where the Crawdads Sing, which I'm super excited to read, by Delia Owens. She even commented on our Instagram because I had tagged her in it and said, "Thank you for picking my book for your summer reading. Happy reading." So that
Yeah,
was super
so sweet.
What a sweetie.
So send us your thoughts or questions or little blurbs about that book by August 31st, and that will help us put together a mini episode about that book.
Yes.
And then you can use the hashtag, and please do this so other people can find out about it, hashtag ReadSolvers, and tag us at re_solve mysteries on Instagram so we can see your posts and thoughts about the book.
Okay.
This episode.
What are we talking about?
What are we talking about? I am covering a wanted segment, and it's TK Harty.
And then I have a fraudy, and I'm not mad about it, y'all.
Yeah.
This is a goodie.
It's a giddy fraudy.
Yeah, I was waiting for Eliza to get to this because she has been so punished by so many fraudy segments, and I knew this one was a good one.
And not
so.
only is it a good fraudy, it's just very different from most of the cases we've covered. So
Oh, it's such an interesting story.
we're all very intrigued.
So, yeah, it's the story of Liz Carmichael.
And then I have the unexplained death of Terri McClure, which involves her son, Tim McClure.
All right, let's
All right.
get to it.
Let's do this.
The candle is now lit, and we shall begin.
We're ready to go. So segment 1 is a wanted segment, and it is about TK Harty. In 1977, TK Harty's... I'm going to stop saying Harty. It's because it sounds like Hardy.
It's not with a D, it's with a T.
Yeah.
Is what
But
we're
it's a
saying.
hard T.
It's a soft D.
Yeah.
In 1977, TK Harty's was a popular bar and restaurant that catered to the university town of Athens, Georgia. The saloon owner was named Theodore K. Harty, and he was nicknamed TK Harty. He rented his location from a group of businessmen who were converting an old train depot into a complex of restaurants and trendy shops.
That's cool.
I know, right? Like, so Portland, but in the 70s.
Absolutely, you would find that here.
Yeah. We start off with Lee Epting, TK's former business associate. He tells us that TK Harty was an obnoxious Yankee when you first met him. He came on really strong, and when he came to town, it took him a little while to get used to him to even want him as a tenant. But then Lee says that once you got to know TK, he was a real teddy bear, a real nice guy. He was enthusiastic about developing the complex and doing it right. Harty's arch rival was named John Mooney, and he also held a space in the remodeled train station for his restaurant. His restaurant was called Somebody's Pizza, which is an awful name for anything.
The worst.
Somebody's shoes, somebody's deli,
Yeah, it's not clever.
somebody's
It's just
taco.
weird.
And there's a reason for that I'll get to. So Mooney and Harty had a Harty. Can I just say Harty? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
All right.
just say it how you would say it. We were just trying to...
Yeah. Okay. So Mooney and Harty had a long history of animosity because both of their restaurants were going after the same clientele. I don't know if there's only 10 university students in Athens at the time, but students love to drink, so I'm sure that they both could have existed in the same town and been fine.
If they were in the same building?
Yes.
I'm sure that people just like hopped around to different ones at night.
Think about how many bars are back to back to back here in New York. If everybody got mad at the bar that was next door, like it just doesn't make any sense. It's
And
so
this is
strange.
like our 80th restaurateur.
Yes, I know. I was going to say that
Restaurants
too.
fighting against other restaurants story.
Yeah, like
Seriously.
I worked in restaurants for so long, and I have never encountered the level of crazy that UM managed to
the
find.
intensity.
Yes.
Nuts.
Oh, it's the first time that they show the Mooney reenactor, and I don't think he looks anything like the real Mooney, and I don't think they tried. But he is a good reenactor, I do have to say.
Yeah, I
So
thought
at least
the
there's
acting was
that.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Lee Epting is back, and he's saying that when Mooney came to town, he was the preppy, out-of-college cool guy who was full of vigor and enthusiasm about what he was going to do and how he was going to make his millions of dollars. Also, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the national median annual salary for bar owners is $67,000.
Oh my God.
That's $16,000 a year in 1977, so it's not exactly millions.
Yeah.
And also, the reenactor does not look like he's right out of college. He looks like he's 40, and I hate it. But I love Epting because he is spilling that tea. It's awesome. He says that Mooney was all cool guy vibes until he got the lease signed, and then he moved in and he was just all, I just need this, I just need that, I can't pay the rent. And then Mooney starts handing out flyers to his pizzeria at TK's restaurant.
Yes, that reenactment.
Holy shit. And that
Hey, come
really
over here.
happened.
Hey, come over.
That absolutely happened.
Yeah, that's a dick move.
Oh my God.
I guess I understand the intensity now.
You cannot poach customers like that. That is super
He's
fucked
like, hey,
up.
this place sucks. Come check out my place.
Well, he was undercutting him because he had 5-cent beers.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Nickel beers.
Yeah, it's like nickel beers. Come have nickel beers.
Honestly, cannot beat that.
Yeah.
I'd be over there.
A dream.
Oh, well, everybody probably got up and left and went over there and
Yeah.
drank 5-cent beers. Like, I would be furious
Yeah, it's
if
a
I was
huge dick
TK.
move.
That was the first time that I was like, Mooney sucks. Mm-hmm. That was my first inkling. While Mooney is handing out these flyers, Harty throws them out, and Mooney is not being displayed in a favorable light. It seems like he's weaselly and desperate. That means he's either the one who gets murdered or does the murdering, because it's hard to tell with weasels. You never know, you know?
Yeah.
Stack says that the feud between Harty and Mooney escalated after 3 years when TK Harty took over the entire complex. Lee Epting says that when he and his business partners decided to not pick up the lease, Ted was able to come up with the money to buy the whole place, which included Somebody's Pizza. He evicted John as soon as the papers were signed on a Friday afternoon. And this is from a newspaper article. Quote, Mooney was behind on his rent and Harty wouldn't let him catch up. TK cut off his water and called the health department, and it was over. Harry Gordon, the DA for Clark County, tells us that TK had told his family and his girlfriend that he was concerned that Mooney would seek retribution, not to the extent that he would harm him physically, but that he may do something in retaliation. Stack tells us that 10 days later, in the early morning hours of August the 30th, 1977, TK Harty arrived home after closing up the saloon for the night. It's such a funny word. Nobody says that. A man, quote, lurked in the shadows. And when Harty left the kitchen to walk into his study, the man followed him. TK Harty was shot one time in the head and he died instantly. 4 hours after TK Harty's body was found, police picked up John Mooney for interrogation because obviously for a suspect. At first, Mooney was very cooperative. Even though news of TK's shooting hadn't been released to anyone, Mooney knew exactly why he was being brought in for questioning. He said, I guess this is about TK's shooting or something like that.
Yeah, this reenactment also.
Keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
So bad. So
It's
bad.
like, well, I would assume this is about the murder.
Yeah. They're like, would you know? Would you assume that? Okay, cool. Nobody knows.
He's very calm about it, too.
So Kenneth Kilgore, the chief deputy sheriff of Clark County, told Mooney that the information about Harty's shooting had not been released. He told him that only law enforcement officials knew about Harty's death.
That
And-
would be so satisfying to be able to do that.
Oh
to
my God,
someone
that's like
that is
a-
my dream.
That's a Columbo moment.
Yeah.
You're just like, one more thing.
Yeah, dum dum.
Yeah. And the manner of his death, because he didn't just say, oh, this is about the murder. He was like, this is about him being shot and murdered or something.
He's like, I would assume this is about the bullet through the left temple.
Yeah. Exactly.
Such an idiot.
He's like, wait, let me draw you a diagram really quick. Kilgore said that then Mooney became nervous and said, quote, I think I need to talk to my lawyer. You think? This guy reminded me of the other garbage person, Guy Saleo from the General Wayne Inn murder, who immediately said he couldn't believe that his business partner Jim Webb had been shot when even the police didn't know for weeks that he had been shot because remember, like the bullet didn't go through his head.
Yes.
If you guys haven't listened to it, that's episode 7, part 1. But yeah, so the only thing worse than a murderer is a stupid murderer. And the only thing worse than that is a murderer who's so cowardly that they pay someone else to do the murdering.
Yeah.
Fully hate Mooney. Mooney called his lawyer, and his lawyer said to get up and walk out if he wasn't under arrest. Kilgore didn't have enough to arrest him, so they had to let him go. Stack says, quote, the 4th week after the murder, another local restaurant manager who knew both Harty and Mooney called the police with a bizarre story. He said he was cleaning up behind the bar one night when an Atlanta electrician named Elmo Florence began to drop hints that he was willing to kill people for money. I just wonder what those hints were like.
Yeah.
Like, hey, do you hate anybody? Like, how would you subtly be like, I'll kill for money?
I have no conscience and I love money.
So this dim bulb in a trucker hat flat out says, I'm a hitman. And then he says, you don't need to call into Jersey if you need somebody good. Give me a call. Because as we know, all of the best hitmen do come from Jersey, which is true. Richard Kuklinski was born in my hometown. Yeah, he was born in my hometown. And he's one of the most notorious hitmen ever. He killed over 200 people.
Whoa.
And he was operating in New York and New Jersey area around the time Elmo said this, so he might have actually been referring to him. So the restaurant manager is being interviewed in shadow, and I am 100% fine with this because apparently Athens, Georgia does not fuck around. He tells us that Elmo bragged to him that he killed TK Harty. The manager says something to the effect of, you just have to know Elmo. I thought he was just kidding around. He has a warped sense of humor. So the manager says, okay, well, how did you get into the house? And Elmo says, piece of cake. That he busted out the glass and then swept up the glass in a pile.
Why did he feel the need to say that part?
Also, he didn't sweep anything. He just like pushed it with his foot and smeared it around a little bit.
Yes, but not only did he say that, they put it in the reenactment.
I know. He says that he waited around for TK and then he was given a telephone signal. 2 rings and he knew he was on the way.
Oh, yeah.
That part too. Yeah. Telephone, 2 rings. Like
Ring,
it was
ring.
so weird.
When I was little, that's what my family would do when we left holidays to know that we had all gotten home safe. We would all call my grandma and let it ring twice because everyone was tired, so nobody would have to talk.
Aww.
But then she would know that if she got a certain amount
That's
of
a
rings,
great idea.
that we all got home
That's
safe.
so cute. I love that.
Yeah. So there you go.
Before we had text, we had to
Communicate.
speak in phone Morse code.
Yeah.
that we made up ourselves.
Right. Oh, he waited, saw the car lights, heard the car, and waited for him to come in. Kilgore says that Florence described the inside of the house, when the murder took place, where the murder took place. He knew about the point of entry. He knew what type of weapon was used to kill Ted Harty. I know. And he knew what bullet entered the head and exited.
The worst hitman of all time.
Oh my God. The information the manager gave to the police that Elmo had given to him, there were 21 points that Elmo knew that weren't released to the public.
What are you doing?
Never hire a local drunken barfly to do anything for you. Like, all they do is drink and talk. That's literally all they do. Of course, it only took him 4 weeks to start telling everybody. The reason why he did it was because he decided to go into the hitman business.
Okay, so he is trying to, like, advertise
He was
for
trying
himself.
to advertise for himself.
My God.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. So they go to arrest good old stupid Elmo. And Elmo had told the restaurant manager that John Mooney had hired him to kill TK Harty. But then they tried to arrest Mooney and they found out he had left the country. For good measure, Kilgore makes sure to drive home the fact that if dopey Elmo hadn't been running his mouth off at the bar, it's possible the murder would have never been solved. Or it might have been solved, but there wouldn't have been enough evidence against Mooney. Mm-hmm. The Mooney and Florence connection would have never been uncovered, and he said it was a, quote, lucky break. 2 weeks later, police were tipped off that Mooney had returned to the States. Why? It's going to take longer than 2 weeks for us to blow over, dude. So he was staying at a friend's apartment. Cobb County Police Lieutenant Lee Moss approached two guys drinking in a parking lot, actively littering. And I hope he cited them for that too, because they're just throwing the cans on the ground in a pile of beer cans. He approached them and he knows that John Mooney is wanted for murder, but that's all he knows. And then I was right, because he approaches them about the littering, which is awesome. He goes up to them and he's like, I don't like all these cans on the ground. I'm seeing you guys littering.
You guys are really disrespecting the earth.
Yeah, he used their lack of respect for the environment to get in with them. Because he was worried that if he just went to arrest Mooney for murder, it would make him flee or pull out a gun. Once he ascertained that one of the guys was John Mooney, he arrested him for murder. Oh my God, John Mooney, you are the worst at this. When the police inventoried his stuff, they found incriminating notes that Mooney had written to himself.
Oh, yeah.
One of them literally says, quote, see Elmo, offer him, if worse comes to worse, take the whole rap and say robbery was the motive. We have an agreement for me to take care of wife and family. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he literally word for word lays it out.
Dear police, I am so smart at being a criminal and so overconfident in my mediocrity that I'm writing a letter to remind myself of my brilliant plan. I will keep it on my person because I am the most brilliant criminal mastermind ever. Also, what a coward. This guy hired like this drunk dummy to murder someone and then doubles down on the cowardice by assuming that he'll take the rap. It's just the audacity of this guy.
Yeah, he's the worst.
So Elmo Florence's trial lasted 1 week, and I can't believe it even went to trial. God, the evidence.
Yeah.
He was sentenced to life in a maximum security prison in Georgia. John Mooney was also sentenced to life. And it's interesting because the first photo they show of John Mooney, he's like this chubby little shaggy-haired guy with a big smile. And then in the mugshot, he's just dead-eye, super thin. Like, I thought the juxtaposition was really interesting.
It was weird.
Mm-hmm. That's what happens when you own a restaurant, man. It really takes it out of you.
Seriously.
3 months later, Mooney was moved to a minimum security facility. Uh-oh. After 6 months of being observed there, Mooney was given the job of kitchen clerk. Uh-oh. Now he had access to areas that were not available to most prisoners. Uh-oh. Calvin Green, former, gee, I wonder why, warden of the Wayne Correctional Institution in Odom, Georgia, says, quote, John Mooney was what you call an ideal inmate. He fit in well, he didn't complain about the rules and regulations, and he just worked hard. Mm-hmm. He had gained the confidence of the staff and Green said he had proven himself. But then Green says, quote, now we see he was a con artist and he was conning us all. Yeah, Green. I hate when prisoners lie. I hate it.
It's the worst.
It's so disappointing. I get so disappointed in them. Stack tells us that on March 16th, 1980, after serving only 19 months of his life sentence, John Mooney engineered his escape. In the reenactment, they showed two prisoners moving a very heavy garbage barrel outside the gate.
This was my favorite
reenactment. I know. It was so good. Stack says that when the prisoners went back inside and the guard locked the gate and walked away, Mooney made his break, and break he did. He jumps up from the garbage can, falls over, and then jumps up and
he literally just pushes out the garbage bag above his head
so
and runs
funny.
away.
Yeah.
It was like a little comical
Jack in the Box.
Yeah.
A smoky-eyed accomplice was waiting in a car parked nearby.
Oh.
As he ran, he discarded his prison clothing piece by piece.
Which we've seen that before.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That's true.
Running, stripping, escaping.
2 hours went by before prison officials noticed he was missing. Stack says by then it was too late. John Mooney had made his getaway. Obviously, it's been 2 hours, yes. Otherwise, he's running very slowly or like picking daisies in a field. Yes, 2 hours is too much time. Yes, 100. They say that he has not been seen for over 9 years. Where's he at? And then the DA makes the most obvious statement ever, like once more from the people in the back. Without the actions of Mooney and hiring somebody to take another person's life, TK Harty would be here today. Unless John Mooney is captured, he got away with murder. Yes, DA Gordon.
Thank you.
That's what we've just been discussing for the last 15 minutes. But thank you for making it crystal clear for all the Elmos in the group. At the end of this airing, Mooney would be 40 years old. In 1979, he was 5'10" and weighed about 170 pounds. He had a fair complexion, green eyes, and sandy blonde hair. And he may be living in the Dayton, Ohio area. And he's pretty cute, I gotta say. And then they have an update. Oh, yeah, right. So add John Mooney to the list because he was caught by Unsolved Mysteries. Mm-hmm. In Scottsdale, Arizona, within minutes of the broadcast, 2 viewers called to say that John Mooney was living under the assumed name Robert J. Kelly. On August 8th, 1989, John Mooney was arrested in his home by Mesa police. He had been living in Arizona since 1982 and was even enrolled in Arizona State University. He had been working as an accountant for various companies in the Scottsdale area. Scottsdale is like a rich area, too. Mm-hmm. It's pretty fancy. Mooney was married and had a 1-year-old child at the time of his arrest. On September 16th, 1989, 9 years after his escape, he was returned to Georgia and is currently serving a life sentence in Dooley State Prison. And here's my update. Imagine my true and deep heartbreak when I found out there was a City Confidential episode about TK Harty's, but it is nowhere to be found.
Oh.
I am super bummed because it would have gone so much more in depth. But luckily, I get to rely on the awesome people of the internet to tell me about the episode. A lot.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So this episode was originally aired in 2001, and in 2006, they commented that they had to order it from A&E because A&E like doesn't release their stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, so I even tried to buy a DVD copy on Amazon, and they're all out of it. I know. Well, I hate that there's information, and I can't get it.
I know.
Here's some information that I was able to gather through various comments and then just like poking around. So apparently when they arrested Mooney, he had a bunch of luggage on him because he had gone to Germany before coming back to the States and littering in the parking lot with his litterbug friend. The police confiscated his stuff when he got arrested and went through it as they always do. They look for weapons or drugs and inventory everything so the arrested person gets their stuff back. While they were inventorying, they found some folded pieces of paper, and they opened them. There was some debate as to whether or not this was a reasonable search and seizure, but the law enforcement officer said that people sometimes hide drugs or razors in the folded pieces of paper, so they always open them up. I totally believe that. He also said he doesn't usually read what's on the paper. I medium believe that. But this paper caught his attention. I definitely believe that because it said, and this is the entire text of the, quote, death note, quote, probably oven part. Elmo and I seen together on Monday. Me giving Elmo's wife 125 for the week after TK's death. Fingerprint on ballistic test. Tying the gun to Elmo and TK's residence. No weapon. Possible. Elmo's nephew overhearing a conversation between me and Elmo talking about shooting TK.
And I also forgot that it was $125.
Yes.
That's insane.
Yes. So he had said, well, it comes up. I can circle back to it. So this is some more information about TK Harty's, which sounds like a super fun place. It really does. Like they were really into the live music scene, so they had bands playing there, and there was a Facebook page where people were like talking about the good old days and yeah. One guy said the bar was known for its huge outdoor deck and very narrow corridor where the ladies had to walk to get to the powder room. Okay. So it was like, you know, if you sat there, you got to like check out all the girls as they walked back and forth to the bathroom. Oh. Yeah. Which, I mean, sounds gross, but it's just that's total gross bar behavior. So,
yeah,
whatever. They had a zoo night where for $10, students got a plastic cup and all the beer they could drink. That was really awesome.
Wow.
Yes.
Ew.
Oh
Why is it called zoo night?
Because people act like
It
animals.
was a fucking zoo. I did not want to be.
I am sad. I thought animals came to the bar.
And I don't want to be a busboy there.
It is not petting zoo night now.
Damn it. I really thought that.
Did you really? Really?
Yes.
No.
There's probably like llamas, and it sounds really cute.
I can probably feed a goat from my hand.
That's me coming from Portland. We would have that here.
Okay, well, I'm not from Portland, and I knew exactly what Zoo Night was.
You were raised in Zoo Night, girl.
Yeah, seriously. I am Zoo Night. So TK Harty's was located in, quote, it was called The Station. It was the closest thing to an entertainment district at the time in the 1970s. TK Harty was only 29 years old.
Wow.
He was the first bar owner in Athens to build a deck outside. He believed that he could just recreate like franchise restaurants in college towns because it was totally set up for that kind of environment. So to add to what Lee Epting, sorry, I might have misspelled it, was saying earlier in the episode, he says that he got along okay with TK eventually, and they later became friends. And Lee says, I wanted him to fashion the bar after one I saw in Heidelberg, Germany. It would be a place for students to hang out and meet their professors for a cold beer. Plus, I thought he had the perfect name for the bar. So he's basically like, I like your name.
Sounds like a good bar name.
Yeah. So with the agreement from Harty, Epting began to build the rest of the station complex. So he started with an upscale restaurant called the Valdosa Dining Car, and that's what he owned. And then he entered into an agreement with Harty and Mooney, and Mooney wanted to start a pizza place called Somebody's Pizza. Quote, what we found out later was that John had worked for Everybody's Pizza near Emory University in Atlanta.
That's funny.
And worked there just long enough to learn their business and their recipes, Epting said. That turned out to be a sign.
Wow.
Like he's such a
And
weasel.
then he almost takes their name.
He almost takes their name. It's not enough.
Well,
to,
he's taking their patronage. Like,
yeah, and it's like not enough to.
if you like this place, come check out Somebody's.
It's so fucked
Yeah.
up. Like it's
Wow.
not enough to go in and learn the recipe and stuff. You have
He's a
to also
sneaky little snake.
Oh God! But he's also kind of a dick bitch about it. He could have just called it anything else pizza, but he was like, "No, I want you to know."
He's a snake bitch.
Yeah, he's a snake bitch. He's a weasel bitch. Bitch weasel. We'll figure it out. So Epting laid out the ground rules on how everybody in the complex would work together. TK would anchor one end of the complex and sell draft beer, said Epting, and then John would sell beer in cans and be anchored on the other side of the complex. And I would have the upscale restaurant in the middle. There was enough business for everybody, and we would all serve a specific clientele. But Mooney said Epting did not stick with the plan. And then he goes on to talk about handing out the flyers.
Yeah, what?
And he says, every day I was getting a call from one of them complaining about the other. And then
That would be
Little bitches.
so annoying.
Yes.
Little dick bitches.
Well, so yeah, that's why they didn't continue the lease. Because they were like, God,
We
this
can't
is a
deal with
shit
this.
show.
Children.
Yeah. Originally, Mooney had a business partner in the pizzeria, and his name was Jimmy Dunnett, and he was a fraternity brother. So Dunnett described Mooney as, quote, the epitome of a gentleman, a handsome guy who looked like Robert Redford and made casual friends easily. But Mooney also had a ruthless, calculating side, Mr. Dunnett said. Quote, John was very unemotional, said Mr. Dunnett, who said he was abruptly fired by Mooney once the loan was nearly paid. He was very calculating, very slow-moving, but always moving in the direction that he wanted. Another thing I found was the court transcript of the conversation that Elmo had with the bar manager, whose name ended up being Robert W. Reinhold. So this is a transcript, and it starts with the prosecutor had asked Reinhold about how this conversation went that night. Quote, Elmo started making implications that he was in another type of business other than Florence Electric. And he went on to tell me that if I ever needed anything, I shouldn't call New Jersey. He said, you're from New Jersey, and you know what goes on in New Jersey. If you ever have any trouble, don't call New Jersey. Call me. I do a good, clean job. Question, and did he tell you what he was talking about? Answer, he said, I'm a hitman. I'm a hitman, baby, and I ain't bullshitting you.
Oh my God, that's the least clean job of all time.
Wow.
Then Reinhold said, quote, I told him, yeah, and I'm the Mona Lisa. Do you want to go dancing? Florence then indicated that he was the person that killed Harty and provided details, which seemed convincing to Reinhold. And then I asked him, you know, why did you kill him? And he goes, because I'll tell you, baby, I'm a hitman. I was hired to do it. And I said, who hired you? And he said, John Mooney from Somebody's Pizza. Like,
Oh my God.
what a fucking mess this guy
my
is.
God.
Oh, shit. Oh, God, now that I'm reading this out loud, it's just preposterous.
It's insane.
So he says, John Mooney from Somebody's Pizza. TK was going to throw this young kid out of the station. John Mooney was going to lose his whole livelihood because TK was going to throw him out. I asked him how much he got paid, and Elmo stated he got paid $5,000 to $10,000. After that, he stated, I don't worry about telling you because you know what goes on. And if anything should happen to me, my partner John knows who I'm talking to and why I'm talking to you. If anything should happen to me, my partner John knows who to come take care of. He is not your partner. He can't wait for you to go to jail forever and ever for him. And you're the worst
This is
hitman.
almost sad. I
Yeah.
almost feel bad for him.
Almost. Miss Virginia Harty, mother of TK Harty, testified of finding her son's slumped body in a chair at his desk in the study. Mrs. Harty was one of more than 30 witnesses subpoenaed in the case. The first witness was Miss Joy Grizzle. She testified that she saw Harty alive on Monday, August 29th. Miss Grizzle said she and Harty had dinner plans for that night, but he didn't show up. And she also testified that Harty had told her about receiving telephone calls from Mooney and that Harty was worried about the calls. She said that she called Harty's mother and asked her to come meet her at TK's home. She got there first, but she was scared, so she didn't go in, she said. She said about that time, Mrs. Harty drove up, accompanied by Jimmy Hancock, who had been having dinner with Mrs. Harty, and Jimmy Hancock was the one to actually find the body, and then they went in and saw him. So, as in our darkest moments, we turn to sitcoms online. So both Mooney and Harty, like I said, were supporters of the local music scene, and they both hosted live bands at their establishment from time to time. REM played at TK Harty's Saloon several times before TK's passing. TK Harty Saloon remained active even after his death. The scenes from the UM segment were actually filmed at the station where the bar was located. The entire complex, including TK Harty's and Somebody's Pizza, burned down in 1996.
Oh.
It turns out that Harty served Mooney his eviction papers on the same day Mooney's father died. Mooney had planned to fight his eviction legally, but his efforts were hampered by also having to deal with his father's affairs, which took up most of his time. And I found out later that Harty did know that his dad had just died.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, the businesses at the station were booming and everyone was making plenty of money, so there was really no need for Harty and Mooney to have such a heated feud. Mooney had carved out a niche for himself in the market by serving thick crust pizza, which had been previously unavailable in the area.
I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, I want some pizza.
We've been talking about pizza for a while, and
I want deep dish
I'm
pizza.
gonna need some.
So the feud started when both of them lit the other's patio on fire.
Oh my God.
On.
What the fuck?
How come you left that out?
The UN left out a lot. That's why I'm going through this with you guys. Because
Always.
UN left out a
it makes
lot.
so much more sense
Yes.
to me things like
Yes.
this.
Yes. They're both to blame. They're both big
guys.
men children. Like, it's so stupid. Mooney had a large following in Athens for some point after his conviction, and they believed in his innocence. Mooney had never committed a crime previous, and he didn't commit any crimes during his near decade on the run. He actually watched the UM segment on himself. While he was watching it, his wife was in the other room.
I was wondering about
changing the baby, and he kept calling to her to make sure she was still in the other room so that she wouldn't come in.
Oh my God.
She had no idea. And then when they came and arrested him, she had no idea what was going on.
I was wondering that.
And they were gonna fly him. So they're basically like, we're going to Athens, or we're flying to Atlanta. So she got on a plane and flew to Atlanta. But Mooney was such a wreck that they were afraid to put him on an airplane, like with other people, and have him in an airport. So they drove him from Scottsdale to Athens. So she flew there, and then her husband wasn't there. She didn't know where he was. She didn't know what was going on. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I feel so bad for her.
I feel so bad for her and the baby.
And the baby, yeah. One area of the episode which differs greatly from the UM segment was how Mooney escaped from the prison.
Okay.
The UM segment depicted Mooney hiding in a trash can, like fucking
Yeah, like just seriously ridiculous.
like the Marx Brothers or something.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
The City Confidential episode said that Mooney was able to escape very easily because it was a low security prison. He was on trash detail, took out the trash, and didn't come back.
He just walked away.
And he just walked away. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Another little fact I found, Mooney had a sign made out of naked women spelling out Somebody's Pizza to attract business.
Oh,
wow.
gross.
Yeah. Mooney makes the claim that over the 5-cent beer ordeal that he was friends with a Budweiser distributor, so he got a product during happy hour at a really low price.
Oh.
And TK Harty was selling PBR. So, I mean, they're totally different. Like, that's his argument. So he's like trying to kind of weasel out of the fact that
Yeah.
it's super shitty to steal other people's customers.
Clientele, yeah.
So Epling was actually considered a suspect originally because he had words with TK arguing with him about pulling the lease out from underneath him and his restaurant. So I don't know if TK was like, I'm the owner now and both your restaurants have to go. Like, this is just all going to be my place now.
Yeah.
I'm taking over everything. And maybe that's what happened. They don't really get into it. But yeah, he wasn't supposed to take over until the end of 1977. And he went behind his back so he could take it over in August. Epling said that Mooney was a nice guy and that he still liked him personally despite what happened. He said he talked to Mooney in the courtroom back in the late 70s and told him if they gave him the death penalty, he'd have a beer with him on the way to the execution chamber. Little dark humor. So here's a little bit more insight. Mooney said that Mooney never did admit to hiring Florence to kill Harty. He implies that Florence acted alone. Elmo Florence was the handyman at the station complex and that Florence would fix his pizza ovens when they would break down. He said he was going out of town when he ran into Florence and Florence offered to give TK Mooney's new lease to sign. So Mooney was fighting eviction and then his father died. So he had to go out of town. And Florence was like, oh, I'll bring him that and make him sign it. So Mooney said he gave him the lease papers and went to Ohio for his father's funeral. While he was gone, Harty turned up dead. Mooney said that he was shocked and scared. He said Florence had gone too far with it because Florence was trying to build up his reputation as a hitman. So apparently Mooney said, quote, I deserved some time, but not life in prison. And also Mooney was nearly paroled in 2002. It was only after the DA's office and the parole board got flooded with calls that Mooney's parole was stopped. There's still a relatively large group of people in Athens that think Mooney is innocent and was railroaded. Also, Elmo Florence now claims that Mooney is innocent and had nothing to do with TK Harty's murder in any way.
What?
Yep. This could be true, or it could be that Elmo knows he isn't going anywhere. And this was written in 2006. So there was another self-incriminating note, and we didn't hear in the segment, and that I didn't find. And it said, let Elmo get tried first. So that Mooney, as he went on to explain, could optimally tailor his defense based on Florence's testimony. Mooney thought Florence was stupid enough to be set up to go down for the whole thing from the get-go, but Mooney wasn't even clever enough to consider what would happen if Florence started running his mouth, which... of course he did. But in the end, Florence got the last laugh because he was paroled. And as of 10 years ago, he had been out for 8 years. Elmo Liston Florence was eventually paroled in 2007 from Bostick State Prison in Hartwick after failing to win release 11 previous times.
Wow.
Harry Gordon, the DA that's in the episode, said he was surprised that Florence was granted parole. Quote, there is no way in the world for anyone to sit back like we do and try to figure out how the hell the parole board thinks, Mr. Gordon said. Quote, Elmo may be too old and worn out to do anything now, but this is a man with no moral fiber or conscience. Mr. Gordon doubted that the 3 decades behind bars rehabilitated Mr. Florence. Quote, all he's good for is occupying space, Mr. Gordon said. I can't stand the man, because you can do some things that are so vile you just can't forgive him. Elmo Florence died on Halloween of 2017, and he was 86, so he was paroled when he was 76. He had like a good decade of living. And then it was in this article where they're talking about unsolved mysteries. And it says, after 9 quiet years as a landscaper in Mesa, Arizona, John Henry Mooney, a fugitive from a Georgia prison where he had been doing life for contracting the murder of a business rival, thought he had it made. He was wrong. Quote, we have done 126 mysteries and 43 of them have been solved and 31 fugitives have been arrested, said Unsolved Mysteries executive producer John Cosgrove. We have had great luck on reruns. Sometimes when you do a story on a fugitive and you're filming in his hometown, he gets wind of the fact that he's going to be on the air and he leaves. But the reruns always seem to take him by surprise. Quote, he thinks the coast is clear. He comes back and we blast him again. The tip that came in to solve the case after the UM broadcast was the 435th tip that came in.
Oh, geez. It took that many?
Yeah, and that's all of the information that I could find on TK Harty.
That's a lot. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, 2 big man children just got into a fight.
Yeah.
One of them got the other killed somehow. Whether or not John Mooney said, hey, go kill this guy, or hey, go scare this guy, or whatever. There was an article I found where Florence said that the gun accidentally went off.
Okay.
He said he just went there to scare him. And the reason why TK was found at his desk in the study was because apparently he said that he had laid 2 new leases out for him to sign for John Mooney. There was nothing to corroborate that. I didn't find anything that said that there were leases on the desk or that, you know.
Right.
So I think that was just bullshit. But yep, TK Harty is it's a cutthroat business, man.
Seriously, this
Apparently.
restaurant biz.
Yeah.
All
Great.
right.
We'll be right back after this short break.
Are you looking for a new true crime podcast? Check out our friends at Crime Salad. It's a case-by-case podcast hosted by Ashley and Ricky. They have a new episode every Wednesday and do an amazing job discussing various murder and disappearance cases. These guys are just well-rounded. They're very clear when they talk and have amazing production value, and they're also a couple of really awesome people. So go listen to Crime Salad wherever you listen to podcasts.
Is your Netflix queue basically all true crime movies and series?
Do you ever wonder why you can't open a bottle of Tylenol without using the jaws of life? Crime Culture, hosted by me, Haley Langan,
And me, Caitlin Mahar.
is a podcast that discusses true crime, pop culture, and how the two relate. From killers that have inspired hit films like Silence of the Lambs,
To the motives for crimes such as the murder of John Lennon. Join Haley and me every Tuesday to discover the pop culture side of true crime.
Hey everybody, we know that you already like listening to Resolved Mysteries, but did you know that you can get paid while you listen to us and some of your other favorite pods? There is a free new app called Podcoin, and it pays you in Podcoins to listen to podcasts. Here's how it works. Find your favorite podcasts or check out new ones. Listen to podcasts and earn Podcoin while you listen. Then you exchange the Podcoin for gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks. Or, if you choose, you can donate the Podcoin to a nonprofit. They've recently partnered with Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation, which is a national childhood cancer foundation dedicated to helping children with the disease through funding and impactful research. The more you listen, the more you earn. So, download the app on an iPhone or Android, use our special code, Mysteries, and you'll get 300 Podcoin just for signing up. I use it to listen to the pods I already like Dark Side Of and Bear Brook, but I've also discovered a lot of other podcasts on there too. There are over 500,000 podcasts, so you're going to definitely find something new. Download the Podcoin app on your mobile device, use our code MYSTERIES for 300 Podcoin, and get a reward for something you're doing anyway, binging podcasts. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, this is a Friday and is the story of Liz Carmichael.
So excited about this one.
Yes, so the segment opens with footage of America in the early 1970s, cars waiting hours in line for gas, and a voiceover of Stack explaining the effects of the 1973 oil crisis. So Wikipedia tells us that the 1973 oil crisis began in October when the members of the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries proclaimed an oil embargo. The embargo was targeted at nations perceived as supporting Israel during the Yom Kippur War. So the United States was part of that embargo. Gas during this time was incredibly expensive, both for the consumer, but also for the businesses to purchase it up front because the price per barrel went from $3 to $16, and it was just wild times.
It's crazy.
So people were trying to figure out, we have all these gas-guzzling cars, so we need more fuel-efficient cars, and then also how do we, lower gas prices again? Stack tells us that Liz Carmichael had the answer to the crisis with the idea for a three-wheeled car that would get 70 miles per gallon. I looked it up, and many cars in the 1970s were getting an average of 13.5 miles per gallon.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as he was talking about this. It was truly revolutionary to think about what if we used less gas.
Yes,
Oh
fuel
my
efficiency.
Nobody had thought about it before.
13 miles to the gallon?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep, there were tanks.
Oh my gosh.
Before I move on with Liz and the UM segment, I just want to interject something UM failed to mention, as they often do. But it's a strange plot point for them to leave out because it, I feel drives the narrative of the whole fraud segment in a way. So the design and idea for the car was actually made by a man named Dale Clift. When Dale and Liz met, she loved the idea for the car, which she would call the Dale after its creator, and told him her company would take over manufacturing the car. So just remember that, and I'll get back to poor old Dale in a bit.
Yeah, no, but that's good background, though.
Yeah,
because
she
they
didn't
made it clear
design
that
it.
she didn't know anything about cars.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, well, they kind of did, but she actually said she does know things about cars and other things I found. I don't know.
Right, but she's not an engineer.
Right. So back to Liz Carmichael. She's a Los Angeles businesswoman. She claimed to be a farmer's daughter and a widow of a NASA engineer. And she was a college graduate with a degree in mechanical engineering. So
That's impressive.
She did say she had a degree in mechanical
Okay.
engineering.
I didn't remember that part.
Some of these things are things that UM had in, some are not. So this is one that's not in the segment. Liz was a huge Ayn Rand fan, and she named her company the 20th Century Motor Corporation after another fictitious company, which in one of her books, Atlas Shrugged. So just kind of interesting if anyone's read that. So she founded the company, and it claimed to design the fuel-efficient, low-priced car with only 3 wheels. She claimed the lack of a 4th wheel eliminated 300 pounds from the car's weight, allowing better gas mileage than 4-wheeled cars. UM says that she saw herself as a cross between Howard Hughes and Henry Ford. And just to describe the car a little bit, prototypes they had, it's like bright yellow, and it has 2 wheels in the front and 1 wheel in the back. Looks kind of like sporty and space-like.
Yeah.
Very,
It's very sleek and
very
aerodynamic.
sleek. Yes.
The Jetsons.
Yes. The car was said to cost less than $2,000, and even in 1974 dollars, that was cheap. It would have cost less than a standard stripped-down VW Beetle.
Oh, wow.
And was supposed to be like this revolutionary car.
Yeah, and would have cost you way, way, way less gas money.
Yeah.
So it was said to be made of a special aerospace plastic and could withstand an impact against a brick wall at 50 miles per hour.
What?
It was also supposedly impossible to tip over. Important.
Important for
People
3
definitely
wheels.
would have wanted to know that, knowing that it had 3 wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Carmichael told investors and the press that her company was renting 3 large aircraft hangars where they would soon start production. Investment money poured in, which was aided in part by mention of the Dale, which is what she called the car, by Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. So that was a huge deal for them. She was also interviewed by Newsweek and People magazine. One political cartoon showed Carmichael staring down well-heeled Detroit automobile magnates, which also gave the impression of women making their way in the workplace. So
Yeah.
she's making a name for women in a space that's obviously dominated by men.
I was wondering how the big automobile manufacturers felt about her based on the way they behaved when the electric car, the documentary Who Killed the Electric Car.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, there are quotes where she's like, we're going to knock Detroit down. Like, we're going to destroy them,
and they're
basically.
even back then they were huge. So, that's not exactly somebody you want to mess with.
Yeah. So she had the Dale, which was a sedan, and that was meant to be produced with the Revell, which was a full-size car, and then the Vanagon, which was a family van, but they would all be 3-wheeled. So it was kind of starting with the Dale, but then they had ideas to make the car different and better,
Weird.
or bigger.
A 3-wheeled van?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was later a Vanagon. That's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Or if it was later. I don't know if it was later than that.
There was a car called the Vanagon? Oh, I didn't know that.
So she made a name for herself and was able to raise $3 million of investor money in pre-orders for the car.
Wow.
Which is a lot since the car only cost $2,000. Like, that's a lot of pre-orders.
And since no one had seen it.
Oh my God.
So there was a showroom where people could come and like look at the prototype of the car, but it was cordoned off. Like, they couldn't get up close to it. They couldn't open any doors for it or look inside. But they just, and we'll show pictures of it, but they just show, what the car is going to look like. And it worked because they got lots of money.
Yeah.
So in 1974, investigators from the California legislature began to examine Liz Carmichael and her company. She was originally accused of illegally selling both dealer franchises and cars that did not yet exist. The California DMV discovered that the company did not have a state permit to manufacture cars and that there was no evidence that these cars were even being manufactured.
That is crazy.
Yep. So we have in the segment a DMV investigator, I did not even know that was a thing,
Yeah.
named Bill Hall. And he went to the lab where the cars were being designed.
Oh, yeah.
And they have this in the reenactment. It's like a bunch of people are working on something.
One
there
guy's
are
just
people
spinning
there.
a crank.
Yes.
He's like spinning the thing with his hand. It's just like twirling.
Yeah.
Were they wearing lab coats?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep, they
Because
were.
when you build a car, of course, you have to wear a white lab coat.
Yeah.
Of course. So to him, it appeared that no actual work was being done, and it especially didn't look like any car manufacturing was getting done. So then he went to the aircraft hangars rented by Carmichael and found that they were totally empty. There were no tools, machinery, or equipment. It was also discovered that the company's rent had since expired on the hangars, meaning that they had no place to make the cars. Yeah, so he said, quote, "We went to the research and development lab. People appeared to be busy, but in wandering through the lab, I saw no evidence that they were designing a vehicle or in the process of making a vehicle. I went to this airport. Upon entering, I discovered the hangars were absolutely empty. No tools, no machinery, nothing but a little dirt on the floor. They had rented this for only 1 month, and the rent had now expired. So they actually did not have a factory that they were representing they had." So this just gives them like more reason that their claims against her were probably correct.
Yeah.
So with authorities closing in and giving her a cease and desist warrant, Liz Carmichael decided it was time to move her headquarters to Dallas, Texas. And then 2.5 weeks later, the district attorney filed criminal grand theft charges against Liz Carmichael. So back in California, Bill Hall, who's the DMV investigator, went to the research and development lab again, and this time he had a search warrant. And so he's able to look up close to the Dale prototype, and he says, quote, "On inspection of this vehicle, it was not a viable vehicle at all."
This part was crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
And there are pictures of him just like, okay, like holding up things that are just not attached.
Or like they did the like quick shot of like the window in one direction and the window in the
Yes,
other
being
because the window was
bent.
bendable.
So he says, quote, "On inspection of this vehicle, it was not a viable vehicle at all. It had no engine. 2x4s were holding up the rear wheel."
And they show pictures of
Yeah.
this
It's
on UM.
crazy.
It's literally just
Yeah.
boards.
We have to post like all of them.
I have so
For this
many
space
screenshots
age
for
vehicle.
this segment. The accelerator was just sitting on the floor. It wasn't even attached. The windows were not safety glass. They would bend back and forth. The doors were put on by regular door hinges like one might find on a house door. The vehicle just absolutely did not exist.
Oh my God.
Yep. So
like
then-
you would think there would at least be one.
Anything.
One that you could show off.
I know.
No.
Wow.
I know. The Dallas police then searched Carmichael's house. Apparently, she and her 5 children had moved out in a hurry. In the reenactment, as one officer is looking at all her makeup and holding bra cup inserts, he asks the other officer, "What do you got there?" And the other officer, who's rubbing his grubbies all over a fake butt, says, quote, "Looks like some kind of padded girdle."
Yeah, it was a fake butt.
Then the first officer shakes his head and says, "We better call this stuff in."
Yeah, and there were like wigs and stuff too.
Yes, as he's holding up a long wig.
I'm sorry, actually isn't even a weird thing to
not
find in a
weird.
lady's house.
Yeah.
Like
It truly isn't.
Yeah, very confused.
Wigs,
Yeah.
fake boobies, fake butts, we got it all.
Okay, so her and her 5 children had escaped right before authorities got to her house. So then 9 weeks after that search in Dallas, a neighbor recognized Liz Carmichael from a news photo that had circulated nationwide and called authorities. Liz Carmichael was discovered living in Miami with her 5 children. She was working for a dating service and going by the name of Susan Raines. They also learned that Liz Carmichael had another identity. So UM says, quote, "She was really a man, Jerry Dean Carmichael." And the reenactor is shown staring into the mirror and then pulling the wig off to reveal the, quote, true identity of the fugitive.
Yeah. Very dramatic.
So I have to say, for the time, UM did a pretty good job using female pronouns for Liz Carmichael in the rest of the segment. I
Yes.
thought for sure they were going to start saying he. A lot of the articles I found do call her a he when they're talking about her. I was impressed by that.
Yeah.
I do feel like a lot of people, and there are people in UM, like the prosecutor and stuff, who isn't as respectful. And I feel like a lot of people think that she was living as a woman as just another con to fool people rather than considering that she's actually a trans woman.
Yeah. Which
And it's a different time for sure.
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it more, but I truly the whole time was like, she is a trans woman.
Yes.
Yes.
So I didn't say it before, but in the reenactment, Liz Carmichael is played by a male-bodied person who's dressed as a woman. So he's basically in drag. I'm guessing it's not an actual trans woman playing her.
No. way.
It was funny how they filmed it. Like, it's a funny juxtaposition as their reenactor is clearly a male in drag dressed as a woman, but then they're showing like no one's talking about her in that way yet. They like hide it from us. I don't know. It's just kind of like,
but then they show
problematic,
us
maybe.
Photos of her. So they show
Yeah,
a bunch of
that's true.
That's why it's problematic.
Yeah.
Is that they show a bunch of photos of
That's
her.
right.
And she's a woman.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, this huge hulking dude who is very clearly not a woman, and it's very strange.
And it is, it's also problematic because a big thing, even within the, like LGBTQIA community, is whether you pass or not as a trans person. So it's a little problematic too, in that like they make it obviously a not passing person playing her, but then she is, I'm doing quotes for pass here because it's like people, they in their own communities will experience not being accepted if they don't pass for a woman. So
And from
in a straight community, if they don't pass to straights, then they're not good enough even in their own community. I am obviously not in the community, so I can't speak too much about it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I've just heard that that's a thing that
It is.
trans people are even still dealing with within their own community.
I've talked to many of them about that.
Yeah.
And everyone they interviewed implied that she was passing.
Yes,
like they
exactly.
didn't doubt that she was a woman.
Exactly. So things would have been, I feel like, a lot different for her had she not been passing, or maybe looked more like the reenactor.
Yeah.
Okay. So she was born Jerry Dean Michael. Authorities arrested Liz Carmichael, but they arrested her under her given name, Jerry Dean Michael, and she was arrested on April 12th, 1975. So Carmichael claimed that she had begun hormone treatments in preparation for a sex change operation. It was later learned that when she was presenting as a man with the last name Michael, she had been wanted by the federal authorities for counterfeiting in 1961 and for jumping bail in 1962. So this is another reason why people think she's not actually a trans person. And then they would have used the word transsexual, but we don't use that as much anymore now.
Yeah.
But that's another reason why they're like, oh, she was just hiding because she was already wanted, so she became a woman.
Well, yeah, that's
to hide as part of her con.
The one prosecutor's like, if I were her, I would just go back to being a man.
Yeah,
it's
not
just
that easy.
Clear there's not any understanding or vocabulary or comprehension for this for people like
no.
that. And
No.
there
And-
still isn't for people like that in some places. So,
Yes, I
you
don't
know.
believe that was any part of a disguise for her.
No.
That was her identity.
So she was extradited to Los Angeles and put on trial for conspiracy, grand theft, and fraud. Robert Youngblood, who's the district attorney you were talking about, he was the LA deputy DA. At the time of her trial, he said, quote, Liz arrived in court every day in miniskirts. Now here's somebody who's over 200 pounds and over 6 feet tall and has a demeanor of, quote, I'm a new Henry Ford. It was rather bizarre. Liz did not give one quarter in the course of the trial. There was never once when Liz gave up her position that the people who supported her would vindicate her. So the courtroom reenactment's really good. I love that she just like opens both the back doors sashays in her miniskirts.
Yeah.
Great. And
she's
then
like, fuck y'all.
And another reason that I believe she's trans,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
she's like, here I am. This is me coming to court.
Yes. And she's great. I don't know I couldn't find like the actual transcripts, but the questioning was great. She's like, if you weren't attacking me in this legal way, like these cars would be rolling out and stuff. And who knows if that's true.
I mean, I still think she was a scammer, but yeah.
So under the name she was born with, Liz Carmichael, but Jerry Dean Michael to the courts, she was convicted of conspiracy, grand theft, and fraud and was released on $50,000 bail. For the next 4 years, she appealed her conviction and lost each time. So she hadn't been to jail in that 4 years, which I'm not sure why it was taking so long and why she was able to just keep appealing. Finally, in 1980, Liz Carmichael failed to show up in court for sentencing. At the time of airing, Liz and her 5 children had not been seen for over 8 years.
oh, shit. I didn't remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so this had taken place a while before. And it's like, how do you hide not only yourself, but 5 kids?
children.
Like you were saying, Robert Youngblood tells us that it's very difficult to know what Liz looks like now, as they don't know if she is living as a woman or a man. He says, quote, and if I were Liz, I think I'd be a man.
Oh, do you?
I said, okay, cool, bye. We are shown 2 of the worst age progressions I've ever seen.
Oh,
One
terrible.
is of Liz Carmichael's, quote, male face age progressed using, quote, FBI computers. They literally called them FBI computers. The male one's not as bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is just, they're not changing any features or anything. And then one of Liz, quote, dressed like a woman. And that age progression literally is just upping the contrast. It's just a little darker. It's not
so-
different at all.
That's FBI computers.
It's so strange.
We'll post a side by side. It's
Yeah.
so strange. One of the guys that was in the segment that had worked with Liz Carmichael, Frank Gavrich, he says, quote, I never thought that Liz was a man. I always thought that, and she is today. She is still Liz to me, still a female. Which I just thought was so, he's like a 50-year-old white guy,
man.
very
Yeah,
progressive.
and he's like, this is the person I know.
Why does it matter? That's kind of his attitude. It's Liz. It's always Liz. It's
Yeah.
fine.
And they believed in her. He and the other guy that they interviewed, who was a little bit crazy. But they believed in her. They believed in the car. They
Yeah.
were like, if she came today and said, let's do it, they would be right there with her. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, so the UM update, which is edited in later, tells us that within just minutes, it's always within minutes.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they ever say. Of the broadcast, they received a tip from a viewer who recognized Jerry Dean Michael or Liz Carmichael as a flower vendor named Catherine Elizabeth Johnson. And we get to see a shot of the telecenter, which I screenshotted and we'll put on Instagram, but that was
yes,
kind of
honey.
cool.
I
In all of
know.
its 80s glory.
There was like a big sign hanging down from the middle with
Yes.
the logo.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes. So Carmichael had chosen to live in the small community of Dale, Texas, which is weird.
It is weird.
Yeah.
And was arrested at her home. 8 years after she jumped bail, she was returned to California, and there she was sentenced to 32 months on several counts arising from her auto scam. And she was sent to an all-male facility. And I read somewhere that like she would be put in an area for gay men, which is still not appropriate
same?
for her.
Yeah,
like
not
that's not
appropriate.
where she should be.
Does that still happen today? Or has legislature been created?
I think it
that
depends
protects-
state by state.
Yeah, probably
I'm
state by
sure.
state.
And then a prototype of the Dale is in the permanent collection of the Peterson Automobile Museum in LA if you want to go see it.
Oh, yeah. I do want to.
I do want to too. I want to see the boards holding up the tire.
Seriously.
So funny.
So I've got a couple of updates for Liz. She served just over 2 years and then was let go of prison with 3 years of parole. So she didn't have to serve that long. I'll get back to her in a minute. I wanted to give a couple updates. So Dale Clift, the man who actually designed the car, he never got more than $1,000 out of the company.
Yeah, where'd the money go?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. From findagrave.com for Dale. That's really all I could find on him. But it says, Dale Clift was a quiet, unassuming man who was well liked by all who knew him. He was a very talented engineer who designed a 3-wheeled sports car, which he later sold to a controversial company, 20th Century Motor Car Corporation of Encino, California. Dale never received the promised payment for his design, and many others lost their investments in the corporation. The car, known as the Dale, was touted as being constructed out of nearly indestructible rocket resin and would get 70 miles a gallon. While Mr. Clift was initially happy to see his car being put out into production, he watched in horror as his car became embroiled in controversy. Dale shrugged the situation off the best he could and went on with his life to other admirable accomplishments. Dale was said to show little emotion but was quick to laugh and was a very pleasant person. He will be greatly missed. It's so sad.
So, I mean, did he ever design like an actual...
No, I don't think so. Also, something else weird I found that they didn't mention in UM. There's not really a lot about it, so maybe that's why. But in late January 1975, a salesman for the auto company and former public relations representative William D. Miller was found murdered in his Encino office.
Whoa.
He was the victim of 4 gunshot wounds to the head.
Oh, my God.
The prime suspect was fellow employee Jack Oliver, and it was soon discovered that both Miller and Oliver had served time together in San Quentin.
Whoa.
And so for what, I don't know why, you can't find any information about it, but Jack Oliver shot him. It's crazy.
Wow.
There's a story there.
And that's like right during the time, like 1974-75 is about when they're starting to be under fire for not having the right permits and everything. So
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
yeah. So Liz Carmichael was never afraid of publicity, and that's one of the reasons why people think she really did believe in this and wasn't trying to scam people, but I don't know, who knows.
Well, it's like the double down effect, right?
So Stack had said in the episode, quote, "Was this the case of someone simply failing to live up to their dreams, or did Liz Carmichael deliberately set out to swindle millions from naive investors?"
Right.
She had promoted the Rivette, which was like the mid-size car, with as much enthusiasm as she did the Dale, even though the Dale hadn't even like officially gone into production. But she even managed to have the Rivette be in a showcase showdown as a prize on The Price is Right in early 1975.
What? Let's find that clip.
Yeah. The contestant was unable to guess the car's price, so they didn't win it. Which saved everyone the embarrassment of winning a car that didn't actually move.
Oh my
Or
God.
exist.
That's crazy.
It's so crazy. Like, yeah, the double down thing is so crazy to me.
Yes.
So some more about Liz Carmichael. From what I can tell, it seems she lived a very quiet life after her release from prison and maybe continued to sell flowers in Texas. I found like a business license, but I'm not sure if that was after her release or before. Mm-hmm. Also, her name when she died was she legally had it changed, Geraldine Elizabeth Carmichael. And then she died from cancer in 2004. So something I was curious about, and other commenters were as well, was the children.
Yes, 5 children.
That's what I've been wondering about this whole
So
time.
a lot of people are like, the children were just made up. She posed with them, but they were not her children.
Oh.
But I didn't believe that. And then one article I found said that when she was living as Jerry Michael, she married a woman named Vivian Barrett Michael in 1959. They had 5 children together, and Liz began to live as a woman, and Vivian stayed with her. She was a man married to a woman when they got married legally. She, quote, fathered them, but then she transitioned to live as a woman. And in the 60s, to do that,
Wife
your
to
wife
stay
stays
with
with
you?
you.
That's why I was so
incredible.
curious about the kids.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
Me too.
So because of the time, Liz would often introduce Vivian to people as her secretary, which is so heartbreaking.
Wow.
Vivian, her wife, said, quote, "We love her just as much as we loved him. So we love her now just as much as we loved when she was their father. The children call her Mother Liz and me just plain Mother." It's just so nice. So the 5 children are real.
I didn't even think about them not being real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
assumed
couldn't
they were
believe
real.
how many people
But I was
thought
just
they
so
were made
curious
up.
about their background.
Yeah.
Or
Liz
like what happened to them.
coming out as trans in the 60s is
Yeah.
Well, I was also worried too that when she was arrested, they wouldn't give them back to her.
Ugh, that was interesting in the article, but then here's a direct quote, which is really terrible. This is what I found a lot. Like, these are articles written in the 70s and 80s. They're totally disrespectful. They're way more disrespectful than UM was of her. So it says, quote, "Upon capture, Jerry Michael insisted that for all the misadventures he is accused of," so just using improper pronouns and her name from before, "the dream car can live up to its 70 mile per gallon claim." And then it quotes her, "I believe 100% in this car," claims the 50% man.
Oh my
That's how
God.
this article ends.
That's terrible.
It's terrible. I think the article was called something like "She Really Is a He" from 1975.
Wow.
Oh my God, what magazine?
I
or
mean, it
people?
doesn't surprise me.
People. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's awful.
That's terrible.
Okay, so this woman's life is just so crazy. She was actually married to a woman, had 5 children, wanted to live her truth and live as a woman, and then with 5 kids and a wife at home, had to make up a story about being a widow with a husband that had worked for NASA. So that part was all made up.
Yeah.
The danger that she could have been in had she been found out in the 70s is incredible.
Yes.
And she's still willing to maybe being scamming people, but she's in the public eye, and maybe not in a great way in some things, but she is very brave.
Yeah,
And so is her
I
family.
agree.
Absolutely.
Even being like the head of a business.
Yes.
As a woman.
and giving
trans
press
or not.
conferences.
Yeah.
She was in a ton of articles. I mean, she was everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's super shitty that investors lost their money. But I think I had mentioned the question that Stack posed before about whether did she really believe in this or did she deliberately swindle people? I think it's a good question to ask. She had these previous counterfeiting convictions when she
Yeah.
was living as a man. That doesn't look so good for her.
But I feel like with the children, she wouldn't have been willing to risk losing it all. So maybe she really did.
I know. I don't know. So, but this case is, of course, so similar to Elizabeth Holmes and all the Theranos stuff.
Yeah.
So right before we started recording, I actually found this Refinery 29 article written in April of this year. It's titled 40 Years Before Elizabeth Holmes Ever Scammed, There Was Elizabeth Carmichael.
Oh, cool.
So I'm just going to read you a little excerpt from it. It's written by Leah Carroll. So for those who have followed the story of Elizabeth Holmes and her now defunct health technology company Theranos, once valued at $9 billion, the comparisons are obvious. Holmes tricked investors into believing in her finger stick technology by manufacturing dummy mock-ups of the Edison, essentially microwave-sized metal boxes that looked kind of futuristic but performed no actual function. Okay, I'm going to stop there for a second. When I first started listening to the Elizabeth Holmes podcast and learning about it, it is hard to know. I mean, I now think she was lying, or she was totally lying. But, like, did she believe it in some way that it would come true?
Yep, I think so. What happened was, in my opinion, she believed that she could do it, and she believed that they would figure it out.
Yes.
So she just kept moving forward. The turning point was when she started having people followed.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of stuff. So, like, there was a point where she was like, we are well and truly fucked right now.
Yeah.
But I do believe that she believed it. There is something...
And
she was
just got in
super
over her
smart.
head.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's something about, like, certain people where their confidence comes before anything that they
It's
do.
like
Yes,
fucking Fire
it's
Festival.
incredible.
It's that kind of
Exactly.
thing.
Right.
Like,
It's exactly
Yeah,
like
and
that.
it's just like a thing of ego where, and I don't even think it's necessarily a bad thing, you know, until like something bad happens.
Yeah.
But just having the self-confidence to be like, okay, it's not here now. We just need a little bit more money. We need a little bit more time. So we're just gonna lie a little bit.
Yeah.
We're just gonna, because we're gonna do it anyway. We're gonna get there.
Yeah.
You know.
and then you get to that oh fuck moment, but it's too
And
late, and you
exactly.
don't want people to find out.
That was it.
Exactly.
Also, that personality trait was in one of those one podcast we listened to where the guy
Yeah,
in
Dr.
high
Death.
school,
Dr.
for
Death.
sure,
Or
was,
Dr. Death,
and
yeah.
he was bad at football, and
Yep.
the guy's friend was like, he would not give up.
No.
And the coach was like, you're just not good at this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he would say, like, he would run drills over and over and over again.
yeah.
And there's something to be said for, I mean,
When you can't admit
That
to
kind
yourself
of-
that
yes,
you can't do
it
something.
crosses a line where the persistence is unhealthy, and then
Yeah.
will hurt other people
until
because
you're
you
literally
cannot
killing
recognize
people,
it. Yeah.
and you still won't stop.
yeah, that's with Theranos as well. Like, people's lives were on the line. She was giving bad blood results.
Yes,
And that
exactly.
affects your medication. She could have killed people. I think that while ambition is wonderful and I love wanting to change the world, there is that moment where you know that it's over, and that's when you become the bad guy and you keep moving forward.
because you've already dug yourself that deep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So back to this article, they do a good job comparing the two women. They say, the comparisons don't end there. Both women made outstanding claims that hit on a particular pain point. For Holmes, it was the fear of blood draws. For Carmichael, it was the cost and expense of owning a car. Both women knew the importance of marketing, even at the expense of actual production. Holmes styled herself as a, quote, disruptor and enlisted Errol Morris to make commercials for her company. Carmichael got the Dale and the Revette placement on The Price is Right, the 1970s equivalent to a viral video. And in retrospect, both of their successes seem improbable. They were both women operating in traditionally male spaces of technology and finance who managed to, even for a short amount of time, achieve remarkable success. Those who were grifted by Holmes claimed they were taken in by her charisma as a blonde, blue-eyed woman. But footage of the college dropout shows a questionably groomed woman speaking in an affected, deep voice. That's something they talk about a lot on the podcast.
Yeah.
At 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, Carmichael was a trans woman operating in a highly biased time who, even before adopting the persona of Liz Carmichael, had been on the run from counterfeiting charges for nearly a decade. And what of their fates? Holmes is awaiting trial for charges of fraud that could result in 20 years of prison time. In the meantime, she's been partying at Burning Man with her fiancé and her dog Wolf. I didn't know she went to Burning Man. Carmichael went on the run after the Dale fallout and was on the lam until 1989 and was featured in an episode of, yes, you guessed it, Unsolved Mysteries. And then there's a couple other paragraphs, but they end with, ABC apparently owns the rights to Carmichael's story, so here's hoping for the prestige primetime docuseries.
Oh, interesting.
But they bought those rights in, I think, the 80s, so if we haven't seen anything
But with the
probably
Elizabeth
not going
Holmes
to.
thing, we might.
I know.
Like, it might like
And
trigger.
this is a good time for it to come out.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting to hear her kids talk. I'm sure her wife is also not alive anymore, but it'd be really interesting to hear her kids' take on everything. I tried really hard to find them, but I don't know what their last names are now. And that's basically it. There was also some talk of someone made a documentary about her called The Rose Lady. There's an IMDb for it, but I don't think it's actually been released, and it's not getting like any press. So it was like supposed to come out last year and hasn't. So maybe it's a project that's been stalled. But yeah, that's kind of it. I wanted more of an update, but I was kind of happy that there wasn't a bunch of press about her after she was released, and that hopefully she lived a quiet life and was able to just live as herself with her family.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that she was hopefully able to keep her children, because that was my main
Yeah.
concern. Back then, I could see the courts being like,
Oh yeah, I think thankfully with the wife, it worked in their favor, because the courts, one of the things I didn't mention but I read a lot about, was they were not legitimizing her transness because she hadn't had a sex change operation. So to the courts, she's still a man who has to go to a man's prison. But to the courts, she can still be married. And I don't know if they stayed married. I think they did. She's still a man, so she can still be married to a woman. So that is one good
And the
thing.
woman can keep
and then
the
woman,
children.
Yeah, was just the
Interesting.
mom to the courts, the mom, and could have the children live with her.
That's interesting.
So
Cool.
yeah,
Nice work, girl.
Good job.
I recommend watching that segment. It's a
Yeah,
goodie.
it really
We'll
is.
post lots of pictures. Yeah.
Thanks, Mom.
Cool.
I
mean, I don't know.
I still don't know.
I know, girl.
So tell us,
So let's
Katie.
talk about Terri McClure and Tim McClure. In the intro to this segment, Stack totally clickbaits us, or whatever the 80s version of clickbait would be.
Cute.
He says, in 1983, Terri McClure was murdered. Her son, Tim, was a key suspect. And when he took a polygraph test, he flunked. Tonight, he tells why, which is 100% not true at all. Just straight up not true what happens in the segment.
Yeah, how can you stop watching at that point?
Yeah, it's good.
The segment starts in the UM call center again,
Oh,
which we just
yes,
saw for
so
the first time
weird.
in the Liz Carmichael segment.
Do you think maybe they got that from America's Most Wanted? Because America's Most Wanted used to do that all the time.
For sure.
But it was 89. Were they out yet?
Oh, yeah.
They were first.
They weren't first. They were a year after.
So maybe they
Yeah.
had just started doing it and showing their call center right away.
And also, I don't know how these originally aired.
But also, that did not look like a set. That looked legit.
Oh, no.
Like, they had their sign hanging down in the middle.
Oh, yeah. It was definitely their call center.
Yeah. So Stack explains that this is where viewers call to give information or to suggest cases. And 6 months prior, they received an unusual call there. It was a suggestion from a man who was a lead suspect in the murder of his own mother. 38-year-old Tim McClure lived with his mother, Terri, off and on throughout his 20s. Stack says they were often seen around town together at the slot machines. Weird? Question mark? Is that weird?
I gotta crack a can.
Go ahead.
That was a good one.
The whole thing is weird.
Yes.
Like, let's just,
Yes.
just from the jump, all of this is so weird.
Yes. So, yeah, we'll just talk about it now. All of his interviews are bizarre.
Also, he seems like a mama's boy a million times. I mean, I didn't even know he was 38 years old.
Yeah.
I assumed that he was in his 20s.
Me too.
Yes. I know.
They gamble together. Oh my God, you'll get to it. But
Yeah.
the whole thing is just so bizarre. His sincerity is so bizarre, and it makes me uncomfortable.
I felt okay. We have
You just literally don't know how to feel when this man is talking.
I know, but I didn't believe him.
You didn't believe him, but you don't believe anybody.
You don't either.
Well, I don't believe
I'm surprised.
And at this point, we shouldn't believe anybody. Like, we should always be like, you're guilty.
Well, I know, but
Okay. Go. We got to tell the listener what we're talking about.
Okay. So at one point, Tim moved away from Reno. And I guess, so he was 31 when this all happened. So somewhere around there. They didn't say where he moved in the segment, but he moved to LA. But he and his mom remained close. So I would imagine lots of phone calls. So cut to Tim McClure, who has maybe the biggest mustache we've seen on UM yet, and extremely sculpted, blown out, hairsprayed bangs.
It's terrible.
my God.
Like he has like that bangs sprinkler situation going on. Like I don't even know how you describe it.
I hate it.
It was bad.
oh my God.
So he is explaining that his mother was the type to give anyone the shirt off her own back, her last nickel to anyone, that she was extremely gentle and calm. And again, They hung out a lot.
They hung out too much.
Like that.
It's so weird.
It's just so weird because he doesn't sound genuine in his interviews. He sounds like he's putting on an act. At least I thought.
It's so saccharine that it's unbelievable.
But also like weirdly lacking emotion.
Yeah.
Like not showing the proper emotion for what he's saying.
Okay.
And just in defense mode basically the whole time.
Yes.
But he called the show.
Yeah, well.
So that's cuckoo bananas.
We'll get to that. So Stack says in 83, Terri was 62 and living alone, which was like a thing they needed to call out. But sorry, that's not weird. Like
She was only 62.
62. I said that's not a thing you would say now. Most 62-year-olds are still working.
Yeah, our parents are all older than that.
Yes. And then
Wait, what did
forever.
they say? She lived alone?
They were just like 62 and still living alone.
Ew. What?
I know. And then turns out in my research, she was still working. It's not like she was like this old, frail lady. So she was a cashier at Albertsons. So again, in this picture of her, she's at the most 62.
Oh my
but
God.
looks like she's in her 70s, like mid at least.
Yeah, at least.
She looks like a little old lady.
God, thank God for sunscreen.
And I mean,
just
she's
have to
adorable,
say.
but she just looks older than that.
She looks tiny.
She
also
is
the
tiny.
Hair. It's the hair that they used.
So what we're actually talking about right now is a photo from Tim's wedding, which was Friday, January 14th in 1983 in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Sounds like the cheapest possible time to get married on a Friday in January. Just saying. Tim explains that the wedding was nothing fancy, but that it was special and great.
It looked like it was at a casino.
Well, if it wasn't, it was near one because the newlyweds and their parents celebrate by doing a little gambling.
My nightmare.
And I said, what is with this family and the gambling?
They
like we
love
already
it.
heard in the intro that was like the special pastime between Tim and his mom.
They love it.
They live in Reno. I don't know. Is there a lot to do back then or now? I don't know anything about Reno.
Maybe that's true. Maybe it was like the only thing to do around town.
Yeah,
They
maybe
had
it's
to have bowling or something else.
Well, and also it's your wedding night. And your choice is to go gambling with your in-laws and your mom.
It's your wedding night.
Yeah. Around 10 that night, Terri decides that she's going to go head back home. So Tim walks her out to her car. Stack says that Terri had planned to drive straight home to Reno, which was about an hour drive from Lake Tahoe. Tim tells his mom that he and his wife, who, as of yet, they have not mentioned the name of, will stop by to visit her the next day. When Tim and his wife do go there the next day, they get to her house around 6 p.m. and they start to notice, quote, signs that maybe Terri isn't home. So there's a reenactment of Tim and his wife, his unnamed wife, walking up to her front door, and they see that the newspaper is still like clipped to the mailbox. And it's one of those bad reenactments where Stack's talking over it, but he's like, well, this is strange. Why would she not have brought her paper inside?
I definitely didn't kill her.
But that's also not that weird that her paper would still be outside from that day.
No.
So Tim says he starts to get a bad feeling. Quote, I didn't know, but I knew she hadn't been home. To me, that was real odd, strange, because there was, on my honeymoon, there was me, and that was real odd, strange, because, oh, wait, sorry, I repeated that.
You were doing an amazing job.
There was, on my honeymoon, there to get married, and she'd taken time off work and did not find her at home. I just couldn't understand it.
That's like when people will read things verbatim that Trump says, and
Yes.
it makes no sense. That's speech.
I was going to say, that
does.
sounds like the president.
And also, it struck me as odd that Tim's mother took time off of work for his honeymoon.
Yeah, why does
Right?
Yeah.
That's weird. That's
Oh,
weird.
that's what he was implying? I thought he was saying, like, here I am on my honeymoon,
Yeah,
and my
he's like,
mom's missing.
I expected her to be home because she took time off for my honeymoon.
Oh, God.
So weird. So Tim starts calling family members and friends, and no one has seen or heard from Terri, so he calls the police. Tim seems to really fancy himself an actor in these reenactments. Like when he sits down with the phone, he's like, yes, I'd like to file a missing persons report. And he's like looking all around and making all these weird facial motions.
He did move to LA. There's
That's
only one reason why you do that.
Yeah, like he was just very comfortable doing the reenactments, which is the first time we've seen that.
Yeah, it was
like usually
gross.
everyone's super awkward and like bare
Especially-
minimum with it.
It's the death of his mother, and he's being accused of murder.
And multiple of the reenactments are with a little lady that looks like his mother. Like it's It's weird. 3 days later, January 17th, Terri's car was found outside a Carson City, Nevada casino, which I later found out was called the Nugget. The keys were in the ignition and the doors were locked. Quote, and Terri McClure was sitting in the front seat, dead.
Yeah,
That
Stop
imagery.
saying it like that. It's
Well,
weird.
the imagery too. What? There was like a pillow behind her head or something.
Yep.
Weird?
Oh my God. Bigger blood budget strikes again. For some reason, they have a like white bed pillow behind her head with a huge blood splatter on the back, and there's like blood on her face, and it was kind of shocking.
an old woman.
I wonder if the pillow, if that. I mean, it's probably accurate. So I wonder if that was used as a silencer.
So yes, we'll talk about all the theories of the pillow, but is that real? Because is the only place that we see that. It's not mentioned in articles or anything
Maybe
like that.
maybe Tim told them. It's like,
Maybe Tim told UM. Oh, maybe.
and maybe it's one of the only pieces of information that the police withheld.
Stack says that she'd been shot in the head twice. And I do just wish that UM had given a bit more details of this crime scene. It was very quick that they went through that part. Obviously, they didn't explain the pillow or anything. No. So the day after the body is found, Carson City detectives interview Tim. Tim was surprised. They asked him if he wanted an attorney present. But, quote, slowly it dawned on him that he was considered a suspect.
brother.
He says that like 3 times though.
Tim says, quote, I started to feel like a victim, and I thought, why should I have an attorney? This is my mother's death. You should be investigating it on another level rather than thinking of me as doing it, which I found out they were looking towards me. I couldn't understand why. I started to feel like the victim.
It's not about you.
Good.
So-
Bye-bye.
This is an unfortunate thing that has to happen all the time. Grieving family members have to be questioned about the death of like a beloved person to them, but there is a reason for that. So I looked at some stats from the FBI, and these are from 2011, not 1983, but, quote, in incidents of murder for which the relationships of murder victims and offenders were known, 54.3% were killed by someone they knew, acquaintance, neighbor, friend, boyfriend, etc. 24.8% of the victims were slain by family members.
Damn.
So that's why you're being questioned, Tim. I don't know if these stats, I would assume these stats were less at that time. But
Yeah.
yeah. So either way, he's being super naive or he's being defensive. The comments about feeling like the victim are very strange comments to make to me.
Inappropriate for
Yeah.
sure.
I can see talking about being shocked to be a suspect when you're grieving. Like, I get that. But to say that you're the victim is very strange. Tim says after he'd walked his mother to the car that night, he'd immediately returned to the casino. Tim said his wife had been gambling with her parents, so he gambled alone for another 2 hours and then
Sexiest.
rejoined his wife.
Sexiest wedding night ever.
Right? Like, it's so weird that they went there with their parents. It's so weird that they decided to basically split up for the night. And
I hate it.
She's like, I'm a blackjack girl. You're a roulette guy. I'll just see you later.
yeah.
Maybe he's saying he was by himself because no one saw him there because he was off killing his mom.
Possibly.
But even back then, casinos had cameras everywhere.
I don't think they did.
They didn't?
I don't think this one did. Oh, and then he also says they went out dancing till dawn. Stack says police have not been able to substantiate Tim or his wife's whereabouts that night, meaning no witnesses saw them anywhere that they were. And I also read that when they were questioned about this, they had kind of a hard time providing details of
Yeah.
everywhere that they went.
They couldn't remember where they had spent the night dancing away or whatever.
Yeah. So I said, this is so crazy because I'd challenge you to find a casino now that doesn't have 1 million cameras in it.
So I guess it was just like, because I always think of the movie Casino, and that takes place in the 70s. And I think that was just a bunch of pit bosses standing around. So it probably wasn't cameras then.
Yeah. And so I kind of looked into that too. And especially because after she left, they were there at least another 2 hours because he said he spent 2 hours by himself. Video surveillance had been around for a while. Like, I guess it became more widely used in 1965, but not in like public places like this.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't really know, but I would assume if they had it, they would have talked about that or we would know more.
And a pit boss would be looking for someone cheating, not some guy sitting at a slot machine. Mm-hmm. So they would
But
probably...
still, even if they were like, what were these people doing for those 2 hours? Were they really there? Like, and I'm also curious why the wife's parents could substantiate, like, yeah, this is where we were and this is what we did. It's just really odd that there's no, like, Tim is the only one we hear from.
Yeah.
It's just so weird.
It's weird.
The detective says they were unable to find any information from anyone about where they went that night. They said they partied from midnight till 6 a.m. the next day, but again, they were not able to substantiate. Tim says that 2 days before Terri's body was found, he had taken it upon himself to search the main highway between Lake Tahoe and Reno.
Oh, right.
The police became suspicious when Tim said he'd been looking for his mom's purse.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't looking for her. He was looking for her purse, which is really weird because she hadn't been found yet. So the detective in the segment says, we again found this odd that he would attempt to retrace his mother's steps for the purpose of finding something that nobody knew was missing. On the 16th, nobody had any idea her purse was missing because she hadn't been found yet. But he felt a specific need to go out and look for that purse. Cut to Tim saying, yeah, oddly enough, she was found with only her purse missing. She was fully clothed, had all her jewelry. The only missing thing was her purse. They put together the fact that I was looking for some evidence of her purse along the side of the highway. And the only reason I said that was because my older sister had put the idea that maybe somebody had commandeered her vehicle and stolen her purse.
Where's the older sister to like corroborate that?
No other family members are interviewed in this segment.
Or just even if the sister did say that, you still wouldn't be like, you're right, I'm going to go look for her purse first.
Unless you
You'd
were
go
like,
look
you think
for her. So strange.
like maybe she's attached to the purse somewhere.
Yeah, if we can find the purse, we'll surely find her.
Exactly.
Stack then explains that Tim drove through all the parking lots of all of the casinos on his mother's route. So between the two cities, he stopped at every casino.
Eliza's face right now.
And like he did like a slow crawl through each parking lot.
I hate him.
On her way home, she left at 10 p.m. And most likely on that drive, she stopped at another casino?
I mean, it could be a family of gambling addicts.
I hate it.
So then Tim says the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah.
Quote, sometimes you get a gut feeling. You think maybe of the Holy Spirit, if you will just kind of guiding you through perhaps a feeling of keeping me away from there to save me from finding her.
Oh my God.
Thank God I didn't find her. That would have destroyed me to find her. So
the one parking lot he didn't go in was the
Also,
one that
why
she
would
was
he
in.
admit to that being the one parking lot? He could have
He
just
had
said,
to have an answer for it. He had to have an answer
but he
for
could
why.
have said, I went through a bunch of parking lots. I didn't go through all of them.
exactly. Or
Like-
he could have said, you know what, I missed that one.
Or like, were people trailing him? They did, like, there was no GPS or anything. So he could have got, say there are 10 parking lots and he went through 9. He didn't have to say he only went through 9 except for the one.
But
Or
to
say
him-
that he specifically avoided it on purpose.
Yeah. But that's someone who's trying to have an answer for everything
Yes.
and overly doing it.
And just his delivery of that whole part, I don't know how you guys felt about it, but was the most unbelievable.
Yes.
Well, why did
I
he-
don't believe a word he says.
Why did he call it the show? He called the show.
Because he wants to clear his name. He really thinks he can clear his name. He thinks he's that good of an actor.
Yeah. So that lot, of course, is where Terri is found 2 days later, Monday, January 17th. Police estimated that Terri had died Friday, the night of Tim's wedding. Police were also confused by a call that Tim had made to cancel one of his mom's credit cards.
Oh, yeah.
Tim said he made the call Monday, January 17th, the day Terri's body was found. But the credit card company said he called on Friday before his mother had disappeared.
Yikes.
Tim says he had reported her cards missing, thinking that someone had, quote, commandeered the vehicle and that her purse might have possibly been missing. He says, quote, I called on Monday. The woman had written down that I called on Friday, which I couldn't understand. It just didn't make sense to me why she could mix up from a Monday to a Friday.
Because she didn't.
Oh my God. So the reason why I was questioning whether or not he did this is because I can't believe someone
Yeah.
would be calling this much attention to themselves.
Yeah.
Like I was like, well, who would do this? This doesn't make any sense. Maybe he didn't do it because who would do this?
Totally.
A dum-dum.
Who would say all of these stupid things?
Yes, I know. I know.
Oh my God.
So the detective then says that the credit memo from the credit card company was in the possession of the sheriff's office, and it showed in their files that Tim called and indicated to the recipient that his mother was dead and that his father was dead and to please cancel the account.
And his father? Where the hell is, like, where does that come from?
I guess he had died years ago. I don't know.
He's like, everybody's dead. Cancel these cards.
Yeah. So, and then they show some shots of like that memo, and I don't know if those are real or
They look
reenacted.
real.
Tim says again, It's just, quote, one of the strangest things I've ever heard of, because I called on Monday, and how could she have mistaken that for a Friday and then mixed up my words like that, saying she had been murdered? I had no idea she'd been murdered. All I knew was she was missing, and that's what I told them. How could this clerk possibly
there's no way.
accidentally hear murder?
No.
But again, why would he call? Why would he even call if he was the one that did this?
I know. It's crazy.
So he's trying to think about what an innocent person would do who's just concerned for it, but he's getting it all wrong.
Yeah, he's a hot mess.
But I don't know, because if it really was Friday, that's the same day he got married. So this would have been before the wedding that he called, when she wasn't even missing yet.
Yeah,
so no matter she wasn't missing nor murdered.
No matter what.
Right, but he had it planned. He knew he was going to do it.
Why would he?
Or did this girl actually write down a wrong date?
But even if she did, why would he say his mom was dead? Even if it was Monday.
Exactly.
Why would he say she was dead if she hadn't been found yet?
Also, if you're going to murder your mom, why would you cancel the credit? Like, why would that be the first thing you did?
If your mom was just missing, why would you cancel her credit cards?
She probably
what if she needs them to get home or something?
But the whole purse being separated from her body thing, I think he's trying to think about what would an innocent person do. The purse is still out there, maybe. So maybe someone's using the credit cards. I better cancel it. That's what an innocent person would do.
He's a real Elmo.
It's just insane.
Yes, exactly.
Like, if that was my mom out there, I would never cancel her card, because I would be like, what if she's out in the middle of nowhere and she's somehow going to escape and she'll need money to get home? Like, I just wouldn't. Like, that's not what would occur.
No, you're also grieving or really upset. You're not even thinking about logistics like that.
The detective just goes back again to the credit memo the woman who spoke to Tim wrote down and said it said January 14th. He says the woman was absolutely sure that it was the date she'd received the phone call from a person identifying himself as Tim McClure. And again, with just being able to call and say, I'm so-and-so, and do this with a credit card.
Matthew Chase.
Yep. I have mixed feelings on this, because I have to write down dates on multiple forms every day at work. And I have often had like a full day of writing down the wrong date.
Yeah.
But not from like a Monday to a Friday, to like the day before or the day after.
I know. A weekend thing that's a big difference.
That's true.
Stack says that 6 months before Terri McClure was murdered, she took out a $10,000 insurance policy on her life. Tim and one of his sisters had been named the co-beneficiaries. I'll just interject right here with the research that there were like 5 siblings. So it's weird to me that only 2 were named the beneficiaries.
That is weird.
Everything about this is so weird.
And they like all had different dads too, so I don't know if that played into it, but it was just strange. Tim says he didn't think his mom would have even done that because it wasn't like her. He says, they're thinking I did this for a reason, which my share was only $5,000. I mean, that's ridiculous. The detective, while smirking, says, well, I can't say that was the absolute motive in this case, but, he says, smirking even more, I'm here to tell you that people have been killed for a lot less.
Hell yes, they have.
Yeah, that was great.
Stack says that on February 14th, 1983, the police asked him and his wife, thank you, I've been thinking this whole time, let's interview that wife, to take a polygraph. Cut to a reenactment of Tim strapped into the polygraph setup in a giant baby pink sweater with a pumpkin orange turtleneck underneath.
I 100 texted you about this.
And with his weird hair. Allison texted this last night and was like, this is the true crime.
Yes.
That outfit is truly criminal.
I was like, I don't know if he killed his mother, but fashion died that morning when he got up and got dressed.
We will absolutely put that on the Instagram. One of the most heinous outfits we've ever seen on this show.
And then combined with that face and that hair, it's no good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God, the eyes closed. Okay, go.
Tim's voiceover is saying that he had no reason not to take the polygraph. So he said, sure, he'd take one, and his wife agreed too. He says, quote, so it was a strange situation. They were asking the questions. They made me close my eyes, being all wired up. I felt like I was in an electric chair, a very hard, wood-armed chair.
I wish you were.
Sitting there as they asked the question. It was... Oh, it seems like maybe a minute between each question, with my eyes closed. Just a number of things that were going around through my mind. At that point, that's when I started thinking, well, geez, what if they think I did it? I'd never taken a polygraph before. I didn't know how to react, and that was just very awkward and an uncomfortable situation for me, which I'm going to give him that. Like, the whole thing of polygraphs, the whole entire thing can be ruined by being nervous. Like,
Well, but they take into account a certain level of nervousness because everyone's nervous.
They get
when
a
you take
baseline
polygraph.
and
They get a
stuff.
baseline.
yeah.
You know.
And I really don't know if they said close your eyes the whole time.
Yeah, that
because
doesn't
if they
make
did,
sense.
that would make you more nervous, and that's weird.
But the fact that he is just, everything is on him. I felt like the victim. It was
Yeah.
uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
It's all about him.
Yes.
That's true. Also, that's the second time where he's like, and I thought they suspected me. It's like they clearly suspect you.
We're like, that's what this whole thing is about.
That's
Tim.
why you called the show, Tim.
So the detective says basically that both Tim and his wife failed miserably. He says they were both adamantly confronted about their deceptions, and in interviews they had no response to this. They couldn't respond to why the machine was telling them they were lying.
That's the first time Tim has not had a response.
Tim says he doesn't know why, but he flunked the test. He says his wife flunked only one question, which didn't make any sense. And the question was, do you know who murdered Terri McClure? And it
said
appeared to be a
no.
lie when she said no. So it
He's
appeared...
like, I mean, if you get one answer wrong, that's like a 95. It's like an A-. It's fine.
he mostly passed.
But then is that even true? Because didn't the detective say they both failed really bad?
That's what I thought was weird too, but in
Yeah.
everything else I read, it did repeat again that was the only question she truly like failed on.
But he failed way more than one question.
Yeah, he failed like all of them. Stack says the circumstantial evidence was submitted to the Nevada DA, but he deemed it all insufficient to arrest him.
Come on.
Too circumstantive.
Two circles
circly.
stanza.
Tim and Terry's friends and family were all questioned, and they all said they felt Tim was devoted to Terry and would never have harmed her. Tim says, quote, my mother was my best friend. I mean, all I could think of was taking care of my mother, and for the rest of her life, after she'd taken care of me all my life, it's the one thing I wanted to do was take care of my mother, and now I can't. But again, like, they were close, like, his whole life. So that's weird.
Was he the youngest?
I'm scared Karlin doesn't
No.
know something because she's questioning things over there.
Karlin, if you don't update this, I swear.
I'm scared.
So they then show a picture of Tim and his mom on the night of his wedding, the night she disappeared. And holy God, this is one of the best pictures we've ever seen on UM. Tim had 3 times the amount of hair that he did in the interviews, and it was gross. I mean, it's not like a full mullet, but it's a mullet. It's like a little
It's
short
very
around the top,
80s.
but then long and bushy on the bottom.
He looks like he's in a Journey cover band or something.
Yes, totally.
Still got that long musty.
His mom is just adorable and cute and tiny. Tim's
so cute.
as they show this picture, Tim's saying that he hopes that someone in the casino that night would remember him because he looked like that.
But everybody looked like that in Reno in 83.
He was also 6'5", so he was kind of a sight to behold. Yeah, he wants his alibi from the night of his mother's murder to be substantiated.
Me too. Let's go. I gotta know.
Tim says there must have been someone out there who saw something, maybe in the past, that they've been afraid to come forward with, but he hopes that someone will. He says now would be a good time to come out with it. I think any time would have been a good time to come out with it.
But you weren't there.
So then the update comes, and it says Tim McClure was arrested for the murder of his mother. However, his case was dismissed, quote, with prejudice.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So
Okay, you'll tell us probably, but that update, that's after he did all these interviews.
yes.
He's arrested.
Yes.
Yes,
The update
okay.
always comes separate from when the actual segment aired.
Because it's re-edited.
Yes.
Okay.
And sometimes
okay.
it's like a few episodes later, and sometimes it's
Years.
Dennis Farina later.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Don't get too excited.
No.
So this case almost made the list. Tim was arrested in 1992 as a result of new evidence that came out because of the UM airing.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
What that evidence is, we do not know.
What? Why?
We just still don't know. So it's unsolved, you guys.
What? No,
So-
but it can't. No, there's evidence.
No, it's unsolved.
Okay.
I wrote down just a few things to know as I was doing my research. No murder weapon was ever found, and there was no record of Tim having owned a gun.
Okay.
No forensic evidence was found on Tim. But of course, no forensic evidence was found on Tim because it took 2 days to find Terry.
Yeah.
$5,000 in 1983 is equivalent in purchasing power to about $12,605. So there was a lot of debate because everything I've got here is from the comments on the message boards. There was a lot of debate about that. Like, oh, that's so measly, $5,000, but it was That's a decent chunk of change if you're a desperate person, if you're a
Gambling addict.
Yeah.
if you just had a wedding. A lot of reasons. And I've had people in my life who are addicted to gambling, and it is shocking the lengths that they'll go to continue gambling. Carson City Sheriff Paul McGrath said that the new information supported investigators' original theory that McClure, a student, was very much involved in the slaying of his mother. Him being a student maybe lends a little bit more to the money desperation motive. So thoughts that I had while researching, I was maybe under the influence when I wrote all these down, said, wait, how is it possible that Terri's body sat bloody in a car for 3 days undetected in a parking lot in a casino? Aren't casinos open like all of the time?
Yeah, that's true.
It's weird to me that Tim was the last to see his mom for sure, and Tim and his wife went to her house the day after. Can anyone corroborate this or what else they did there? Did they go there to get her purse or to get other things for setting up the scene? Did they go there to actually have a story about having been there in case anyone knew they were there? Tim seemed to only care about talking about how he didn't do it. Not once in his interviews does he show any emotion or stop to say, all I really want is to find out who killed my mother. I'm not knocking people who don't show their emotions because, hello, I'm the Ice Queen. Nice to meet you.
You were definitely under the influence.
But his interview style is so bizarre. The timing of the disappearance is odd. The same night as Tim's wedding, that just seems like such a crazy coincidence. This triggers in my mind was that maybe there was a reason to wait until he was married to collect on life insurance.
Why?
So this had me suddenly going down a tunnel of wondering if the wife convinced him to do it so that they could collect on insurance together. I don't know. So Robin Warder did an episode about this, episode 32 of The Trail Went Cold.
Like always. Sorry, Robin.
Always.
We're 3 years behind you.
Yeah, exactly. And I was actually going to say, like, when you brought him up in your segment, or you brought up commenters, that's what he started as doing. He was just on all of these message boards and commenting
I didn't
for
know
a
that.
while. And then he did the podcast.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so...
Unlike us who never commented or thought of anything and just started this podcast.
Robin said in his that the window was open. So I don't know where he got that because I couldn't find that in any of the articles I read and it wasn't on UM. So I don't know. The crime scene is just so odd. She was a 62-year-old woman who obviously everyone thought was kind of frail. Did someone need to shoot her if they were going to rob her? I feel like they could have just pushed her over or threatened her.
Yeah.
So it seems like literal overkill to me if that was the motive. So in the commenters, says the fact that it took 2 days to find Terri is what makes it impossible to catch any evidence on Tim. So there was just too much time in between there because if they could have caught him on the first day, maybe they would have found something. And then Crystal Dawn says, RS never mentioned the pillow. Do we know if that's actually how her head was found? I always wondered if the crew did that to make her head easier to see for filming or viewing purposes. I still think being shot and robbed in the parking lot of a casino late at night is the likely way she was killed. Justin5256 says, I watched this again today. One small thing I noticed that might indicate he did it was there was a pillow placed under her head. This strikes me as the act of someone who cares about the victim.
Oh,
if there were some random perp, why would he set her up like that? And we've seen that in other cases. Like it's like a thing of like almost like a little respect, which is so weird.
Oh yeah, they'll find women who've been murdered and sexually assaulted and their clothes are folded up neatly and their shirt is used as a pillow.
Yeah. So there's maybe that.
I don't know. I think a silencer, if you were going to have a pillow.
And then, somebody else, I don't think I put that one in, but somebody was like, maybe it was a fucking silencer.
Because if you're going to shoot in a parking lot.
I think somebody said, like, I know that place, and if it had been out there, you would have heard it.
Yeah, because it's all it is, just echo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody else said, I always thought the killer put the pillow there and leaned her up against it to make it appear as if she was sleeping to passers-by.
It was covered in blood.
But yeah, if it was like UM said, it was covered in blood.
It's Nevada. Even if it's in January, you're going to do a double take if you see someone sleeping in their car in a casino parking lot. An elderly woman.
That's what I thought too. And someone else commented about how Carson City wasn't that populated at that time. But I'm like, 3 days? Somebody would have seen that. A commenter said, did she approve of his new bride? Was there an issue that now Tim was married, she might worry about being driven out of the picture? So, and then I found a comment from L. Fitz in 2017. I did Terri's hair the day of the wedding. I owned and operated the beauty salon downstairs in the Nugget Casino. She told me she was going to her son's wedding at Lake Tahoe, mainly to keep peace in the family. She said she wasn't happy with her son's choice in women, especially his wife-to-be. She said she better go. He's probably going to need money, and laughed. But she said she just might be surprised. Some changes were coming. I wished her well and told her to be careful on the road to Tahoe. Later, I did the woman's hair who did the reenactment for the case. I thought about the son right away, and perhaps I should have come forward. I think she was killed in Lake Tahoe and then brought to the Carson Casino because someone would have heard the shots. Motels are located all across the back of the parking lot. Rest in peace, Terri. I only knew you briefly, but a lot can be told while getting your hair done.
Oh my God. Yeah. She just gave a motive.
That's crazy.
And then Tony Kells in 2015 had said, I am Terri McClure's granddaughter, and everyone in my family believes Tim killed her. I don't know where Tim's ex-wife is, but she knows the truth and chooses to be silent.
Wow.
I mean, what year was that?
That was 2015.
Damn.
That wasn't the only place that I read that the ex-wife knows something.
Of course she knows something.
So then other people were wondering about like the relationship between the new wife and the mom, and maybe that wasn't good. And then I found a comment from Robin, but it was on Reddit, and I believe it was before he made his episode. And he said, I have no idea what new evidence compelled the police to eventually charge him with murder. But if it came about because of a viewer tip, then Tim's strategy backfired horribly. However, the fact that the charges against him were dismissed with prejudice would indicate that the district attorney must have been very convinced of his innocence. Of course, given that the absence of Tim's wife from the show, I've always pondered the possibility that she committed the murder and has intimidated Tim into covering for her all this time. But then I doubt she would ever have been allowed to appear on to begin with. So, with prejudice, this is all from Robin, is essentially the equivalent of double jeopardy without a trial, meaning that no matter what new evidence may surface, Tim can never be charged with this crime again.
What?
No.
What's particularly frustrating is that two major pieces of information have never been released publicly. One, the new evidence which prompted police to arrest Tim 9 years after the murder. I found one article which claimed his ex-wife was going to testify against him, but refused to do so. I also have no idea when Tim and his ex-wife actually split up. A lot of people didn't know if it was like before he was on but they do think it was before he was arrested in 92. The reason Tim's murder charge was dismissed, quote, with prejudice. Dismissing cases with prejudice is very rare, and permanently closing the door on prosecuting Tim again would only be done under the most extreme circumstances.
Like what?
This may not necessarily mean Tim was innocent, and it's also possible that investigators and prosecutors could have committed serious misconduct or screwed up the case so badly that it would be impossible to put Tim on trial and secure a conviction.
Oh.
So...
Oh my god.
So that's probably what it is. They probably screwed something up, and now no matter what happens, the defense attorney will just call it out and embarrass everyone.
Yeah. So it's like at a literal standstill. Why did this happen? This may imply that authorities had some major misconduct issues.
I can't believe that's even a thing.
I know.
That exists.
It doesn't seem like that helps anything.
No.
It helps people who do a shitty job investigating.
Robin also brings up that after Tim's arrest, his bail was suddenly revoked over, quote, comments a deputy heard him saying during transport. Unless he just straight out said he did it, or that he was going to skip town after getting out, what could have caused that to happen?
Yeah.
Dismissing a murder charge, quote, with prejudice is rare and reserved for extreme circumstances.
Damn.
So it's just at a standstill. And there's all kinds of theories, like maybe she picked up a hitchhiker because she was known to do that. And then a few people bringing up like she was killed somewhere else and then put there.
I mean, even if she was killed somewhere else and put there, whoever killed her, if it wasn't someone that knew her, wouldn't have put her in the casino that was her favorite spot where she got her hair done before her son's wedding.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
She picks up a hitchhiker, they rob her. How the hell did they know that? Like,
Right. What
the
are the
Nugget
chances?
is her favorite, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, actually, that didn't occur to me until the hair comment. That was a place she liked to go.
Sorry, was her purse ever found?
No.
Never. Damn. Where'd that purse be at, Tim?
We don't know.
Even if he did do it, it doesn't matter because the way that they got the information isn't legally sound.
Yeah, and nothing can ever come of it.
Oh my God. So we don't know where he is.
No.
We don't know the ex-wife's name.
No.
We don't know the name of the other family
I'll show you
members.
one person I found on Facebook who I think is probably him, but he literally only has a photo.
Is the name Tim McClure?
Yeah.
If a case is dismissed without prejudice, is the case still open? Or is
Oh, no. This has got to be him.
All right. Well, let's see.
This one's him.
Oh, you
The
just
other one
found
might
it
have
right
been him
now?
too, but this one, yes.
Turn it around. Turn it around.
That's his face.
Oh my God. That's him, honey.
Holy shit. How'd you just do that?
Wait, I'm
don't
sorry.
even
Send
know.
me the URL because I want to know everything.
No friends to show. And that photo is the only one.
Well, screen grab it.
That brow, there's no mistaking
Oh,
that
no.
brow.
It's him. It's him, honey.
The fact that he was a hair designer makes so much more sense now with all the weird hair and all the pictures.
But this is interesting. The fact that you were like, he's way
Yeah.
too comfortable acting. Like, and then he's in 2017. I'm going to be starting a new career soon. I'm going into acting for film and TV. Please get in touch with me. I really want to talk with you.
Yeah.
Also, like,
if all goes well, you might see me on the silver screen.
how much of a disconnect from reality do you have to at this age think that you are going to become a famous actor on the silver screen?
Yeah.
The same sort of disconnect with reality that you would have if you murdered your mother and then tried to lie about it on national TV.
Exactly.
Like same sort of
he
personality.
has like 3 different profiles.
Crazy, 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 crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So,
All right.
Well,
Love it. Thanks.
believe it or not,
Annoying.
we thought it would be ob, but it's not.
Thought it would be so odd.
Pretty frustrated.
Yeah. I've had 2 in a row like that. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I could tell that you didn't know.
Oh, I couldn't.
Yeah. I was trying not to give it away, but I was like, I'm going to have to tell you at some point.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Good job, girl.
All right.
Oh, wait. We need to do Sharesy Feelsies.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I have nothing.
You have nothing? Really?
Okay, I'm in the middle of Into the Water, but by the time this comes out, our mini
Well,
will
and
be
you
out
can't
about
share
it.
feel that because it's going to be its own thing. I finally started The Shrink Next Door, which you were talking about last time. And
Yay!
it's,
Isn't it
wow. Oh my God. Wow.
ridiculous?
Is there going to
God,
be
that's
more
crazy.
episodes?
There's only 6, and they just
Oh.
finished 5, so there's one more coming out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was like, this doesn't seem like the end.
But I don't think the end is really going to be the end. Like,
It's not doesn't have a resolution necessarily.
yeah.
Right. And then also I was going to recommend, if you're in Portland, the Portland Rose Show, which now, by the time you hear
You'll
this,
have
it'll
to
be
wait a
way,
whole
way
year.
gone.
Well, that's fine. 'cause
And you
we-
will have to wait a year, but it comes every year. And the Rose Society has been a thing since 1889.
That's cute.
It's part of the Rose Festival, but it's literally a thing where people bring their like gorgeous prized roses and they get judged and like given ribbons. And
Allison, you got to
you
do
get
it.
to look at so many.
Do you have to be there the whole time if you're
No.
showing a rose? You
No.
should do it.
Me? Why?
Because you've got pretty roses.
I just got drunk and planted roses. I do nothing for them.
All you'd have to do is put it in a vase.
Well,
right?
I'm getting really into roses, so maybe I'll enter next year.
Are there like different categories?
There's even like ones that are just rose in a bowl.
Like you just have a bowl of water with a rose in it?
So it's
Yeah.
like floating on it instead of a whole stem.
I could definitely enter that.
yeah, girl.
What
All
if I put
kinds of
2
different
roses in it?
setups.
Oh, you
No,
win.
you'll be disqualified, and they'll write about it on the tag, and they'll be like disqualified, no bud accompanying bloom or something. Like, yeah,
Oh, that's
each category
mean.
is specific.
But so that everyone can see that you're disqualified?
sometimes they wrote it on the tags. I don't know.
Oh my God, those rose queens.
It was fun.
Damn.
Oh, that
I
sounds
liked
fun.
it. Yeah. Yay.
So what's coming up next episode?
There is an unexplained death segment about Gus Hoffman.
And then Mysterious Legends, Charles Nungesser, and Francois Collie-Blanc.
And then another unexplained death, Patsy Bolton Wright.
There's one more, which is The Lost Loves of William Betts.
That's going to be our second to last episode.
Oh
for
my
this
gosh,
season.
I can't believe it.
Crazy.
It is crazy. Holy moly, how did we get here?
So go to patreon.com/Resolved Mysteries Podcast if you're interested in supporting us there. If you subscribe at the $5 a month level or higher, you'll get 2 extra episodes a month and a shout out on our show, plus other goodies like stickers and stuff. Also, if you go to resolvedmysteries.com support, there are other ways to support the show. I think the billboard.
Oh, forgot about the billboard.
Yeah, we've had one billboard before, and it was
One
so
great
fun.
billboard.
But basically, it's where you can have us shout someone out or deliver a cute little message for you,
Yes.
or wish someone a happy birthday, or whatever you want.
Yeah. So if you don't want to commit to X amount of dollars a month, you can go to the support page on our website, and there's a couple of ways that you can support us and just one-time dealy support us,
Yeah.
And then please send us your stories for listener short stack episodes. Please email us your favorite unsolved mystery story, cold case, nostalgia. You can contact us at resolvedmysteriespodcast.com. And our email is resolvedmysteriespodcast@gmail.com. Our P.O. Box is 14005, Portland, Oregon, 97293. And to see photos relevant to this episode and others we have covered, follow us on Instagram at _solvedmysteries and Twitter and Facebook at resolvethepod. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you like us, leave a 5-star review and tell a friend.
I think that's it.
I think we got it.
Thanks for listening, friends.
Let's go get some poutine fries.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. I'll just have to kick a rose bush out because I love peonies. They're my favorite.
Oh,
They're
they're
my
gorgeous.
favorite.
I'll
but
take a
they're
peony over
also
a
not
rose.
long for this world. Whereas like roses in Portland, we can have all spring and summer.
Oh, that's true. Well, that's how I feel about my lilac bush. It smells so good, but it lasts for 10 days.
Like
Same
the
with
blink
my
of an eye.
jasmine.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Welcome to Resolve Gardening.
We just got old, white, and female real quick.
Yup. You have to be a crazy rose lady to like it, but if you are, then you'll love it.
That's awesome.